the August 11th, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. We have no approval of minutes for June 23rd and July 14th.
I've read the July 14th ones, and I'll move the July 4th one. 14th, they're fine.
I'm prepared to move June 23rd.
I'll second both.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And the next one is 242-1787, 135 North Ramp Road, and I have to recuse myself, so I'll turn the gavel over to Mr. Mancy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so
Amy.
we have Mike Miller, Airport Manager, with us this evening to give us a brief update on his progress regarding the borings that the Commission had asked for. We have the scope of work from Stantec, which is the Airport Commission's consultant contract with us, submitted to us. So Mike just wanted to come and give us a brief very brief.
Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to update the commissioners to what has transpired since my last appearance before you. It's a pleasure to see you all in person as opposed to via phone calls and Zoom meetings. As your administrator has indicated, based upon your letter, May 3rd, the specifications letter, I sat with Randy Christensen, the airport's consultant, environmental consultant from Stantec. Looking at the letter, he felt it more prudent to bring in some subject matter experts, so we expanded our team to include some consultants from Stantec that practice in this area, some licensed site professionals, the terminology to be used. So after several meetings with them, we were able to put together a scope of work, and it was determined at the conclusion of that, and that was the scope of work the administrator has referenced, and that was also provided to the applicant, the DeRosas, so they have it as well. It was determined that based upon the contract we have with Stantec, they themselves could conduct the work for us under contract. So we were able to engage them. We took their scope of work, turned it into a scope of services. In mid-July, we had the consultant and the airport sign the contract, but unfortunately, we are a political subdivision within the City of Lawrence, and the City of Lawrence requires multiple signatures on that document. We anticipated starting work the first week of August. In furtherance of that, we have surveyed the locations of the borings. We have had, it was supposed to take place this Tuesday, the 9th of August, the underground utility survey to make sure there's nothing in the way of those borings. But they aren't going any further until such time as we get the contract back from Lawrence City Hall. Unfortunately, vacations and sickness and illness has gotten in the way, but I still need 4 additional signatures. There's 5 in total on our side, but it has been signed by the airport, it has been signed by the contractor, and we're just waiting for that document to come back. As of yesterday, I believe it was in the comptroller's office, it's next to the city attorney, and then the mayor's office for signatures. And that's where we stand.
Okay, real quick.
You humbly put it that I'm delayed with the signatures, but the reality is if you had to go out to full RFP, you're actually ahead of schedule.
I appreciate that. We are. That was the decision that was made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the scope of work's well-directed. I just have one question on it. Stantec, you mentioned, is basically managing the whole thing?
They are.
For you? Okay. Have they chosen a boring contractor yet?
I believe they have, yes.
Okay.
It's somebody they work with
Do you happen to know
regularly.
who it is?
Let me see if I may have that
For you,
information.
because you're familiar with these guys.
TDS, Technical Drilling Services?
Okay. Good.
Fine, yeah.
All right. No more questions.
They're going to be under the oversight of an LSP anyway, so it'll be fine.
So TDS will be working under the direction of your LSP.
Yes. they
Okay.
will be.
Sean?
No questions.
No question. And my only question is, are you working with the other parties with respect to financially covering other costs?
We will be working out an arrangement. Yes, we will.
That's all I need to know.
Yes, sir.
Follow up on that, Al, was, I think there was still some question about the third-party review that we would typically want to have
So
undertaken.
that's the $5,000?
Yeah.
And
We have those
That's been
funds.
worked out?
Yes, we
Thank you.
have those.
sounds like a home run, Mr. Miller. Would you be requesting a 2-week or a 4-week continuance?
Well, our
If-
next meeting is 4 weeks away. It's September 8th.
I'll be at your next meeting.
So September 8th is the date.
Is our
Looking for-
next meeting.
I'll take a motion.
I move that we continue this matter to September 8th.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Miller.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Thanks. Next one is 242-1810 Osgood Pond Dam.
Alrighty. Okay, since the last time we've met, we've had our third-party peer review do a site inspection and provide the initial report. I distilled the report in my staff report, and I can go through it quickly if you'd like. So they said that Phase 0 seems reasonable and will allow for better access and ability to observe the site conditions. Rehab of the drainage, discharge level spreaders weren't closely evaluated, but they seem reasonable and may need further work based on subsequent phases. The upstream and downstream limits of the work fall a bit short of the ODS requirements that all trees be removed within 20 feet of all dam features and structures. These include trees adjacent to the stone building on the downstream side that would need to be removed. GZA reviewed phases 1 through 3 and think they are reasonable. However, they will be refined based on the ODS required follow-up inspection investigation, what's called a Phase 2 inspection investigation. This investigation would evaluate structural integrity of the spillway hydraulic capacity of the dam, slope stability, seepage analysis, etc., all of which would require corrective actions or BMPs. We do know, I don't know the status of that Phase 2 investigation yet, but we can find that out. Interim stabilization BMPs, once Phase 0 is complete, should include 100% biodegradable erosion control blankets and the use of localized temporary stormwater runoff diversion to avoid street drainage from flowing over the newly seeded slopes. GZA recommend the following monitoring regimes after Phase 2 has been seeded and stabilized. So for the first 2 months, monitor every 2 weeks or after heavy rain events. I think we'd probably do once a week after 1/2 inch rain events, which is typical for our monitoring. Once stabilized, conditions, a minimum of every 4 weeks or after events of 1 inch or greater or 2 inches within 24 hours. Commission may, in hindsight, want our third-party peer review at a meeting to provide, field him for questions. We'd have to change the scope for that. The other issue that came up is that our assessor's office, what?
We're not gonna discuss
No,
that.
okay.
All right. There was a problem with the butter notification.
Right.
The butter that owns the stone house was not notified properly.
Okay.
So what I suggested was we issue the abutter notice, continue the meeting. I just opened this up just so you guys get some feedback on it. We give the abutters time to research what they've got so far for information, and then give us 2 weeks to review the information that we have, or 4 weeks, excuse me. But I think reissuing the abutter notice is the right way to go. This way, everybody's covered.
Agreed.
Not even saying legally, because everything we do with this table is legal, but the reality is that the obligation, the burden of proof is with the applicant to go to the assessor's office and get a certified abutters list. If it's in error,
It is.
the applicant has met that burden.
It is.
And
The
so
assessor-
we're doing something fair by notifying others, but there's really no obligation to. We're doing it because it's fair.
Right.
The arrow was on the assessors, is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So
So-
we have an updated, corrected abutters list here, so I can give that to the applicant. Okay.
So
So re-notify.
we notify, continue to the next meeting.
Okay.
It allow the abutter that didn't get noticed to review the documents. It gives us time to review the documents, and if there's any questions, when they come back in 4 weeks, we'll have some. Because there's a lot to take. I have several questions myself But based on the agenda that's here tonight before us, I just wait till the next meeting.
Sounds good here. Just with the applicant being here, just so they know what to expect when they come back in 4 weeks, if that's where we're going, is that this whole breakdown of phasing and future phasing, remember the original request was to permit the entire operation, multiple phases. And I think that, our peer review says that really was a legitimate concern that we have to, we really want to focus on what we're going to permit under this first, whether it's phase 0 and phase 1, and only that. The discussion may be all well and good for future phases, but I'm not inclined to, to grant permission for those future phases.
Correct.
So we have Nicholas Pauling with us this evening with the applicant's consulting firm.
Correct. My name is Nick Pauling. I'm with Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. Just if I could touch upon, there was a lot of comments there, just to touch upon some of those. Mr. Lynch was actually 100% correct. We properly notified as they met our requirements. As far as the abutter who was missing from that improper list, they have been notifying and contacting and actually made a statement over a month ago that they've reviewed the application. I believe they're in the room tonight as well, so they're perfectly free to make any conversations. On a side, we have agreed to include them as part of any future notifications in any applications. So kind of doubling back, I'm sorry, this is the first time I've come before you. One of my coworkers are here. The next step after your granting of the order of conditions is to file for what's called a Phase 1 253 permit. That's a permit to actually do work on the dam with the Office of Dam Safety. That coverage is for Phase 0, as we're calling it. That is really all we are looking to get approved by the Conservation Commission. We did provide the additional phases 0, 1, and 1, 2, and 3 with the full expectations of coming back either for a request if what we needed to do to satisfy the additional requirements of the dam safety after the trees were removed and we could properly analyze the stability and the slope, whether or not that would require an amendment, or if you want to stop and just say you're only approving phase 0, that's perfectly fine, and then it would just be a subsequent new notice of intent as every phase is developed or what we can come out. The reason that I say that is phase 0, or the cutting of the trees leaving the stumps, that's what we know needs to happen, and once that's done, we're able to better evaluate the stability of the slope, which talks about phase 1, 2, and 3. So perfectly fine with limiting the approval under the application to only phase 0. That's the one that's detailed on the plans and the application. As far as the peer review we're fine with accepting all the recommended conditions of the monitoring and the erosion control blankets, if that's rolled into the order of conditions as we move forward into the 253 permit with the Office of Dam Safety.
You'll have to answer those in writing to her. So you're agreeing with all the third-party reviews,
That's fine.
recommendations.
Yep.
So that's part of it. And due to time constraints, I'm sure there's several questions. I have a few, and
I'd love to hear them.
and you will. and just for time element, we're not going to be able to do anything. I'd like to see in writing that you're addressing the concerns of the third party in writing to her, so that she writes it back in her recommendation. She sends us a letter saying you're agreeing to this and this, this, and this, and then we can move forward. And it gives everybody 4 weeks' time to kind of digest what we have here, because
Is Mrs. Vandervoort here?
I don't know, but she is here.
Yeah, okay, Mrs. Vandervoort is here.
Okay.
So I believe the procedural thing is now to continue and give her a chance to get
Yes.
caught up on?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to continue to the next meeting.
Mrs. Vandervoort, you understand what we're doing? We're going to continue it so you get caught up?
Yes, is this appropriate time to make a comment or ask a question?
I would say the next meeting, because we haven't digested the project as a whole. We're waiting for a third-party review to come before us, so we could kind of digest it, because I'll be truthful, I don't know anything about dam work, and I'm sure most of these commissioners don't either. So I just assume wait, you can digest the reports, we can digest the reports that we've been given, so by the next meeting, we should all be kind of like, know a little anyways. Does that work?
Yeah, I guess my concern is maybe allowing us to have a conversation with the engineer, since we have a historic building with a stone rubble foundation. So any work being done would definitely impact the, the integrity of our building, so we
Well,
really need to.
I agree. So bring it to for the next meeting, be prepared.
Or make contact in between.
And make contact with the engineer or staff, and we'll address that problem at the next meeting when we have more information. Right? So we need a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Next one is 242-1814, 3 Great Pond Road.
Okay. Okay, that's all right. So, since the last meeting, the commission requested additional information consisting of showing the construction access, construction stockpile location, construction sequencing narrative, stormwater and snow management plan that shows stormwater BMPs and allowable stockpile areas, as well as O&M requirements for new owner consumption. Additional analysis was provided regarding the locating the infiltration chamber under the parking lot. So I believe the commission has all the information that it needs, unless you have additional questions. We will have to continue, and I'll have to draft a decision, and then we could close on September 8th.
Close the issue at the same time?
Yes. And Libby
That's it.
Wallace is with
So
us
we
this
can
evening, with Hayes.
Joe, questions?
We have to continue.
Yeah, we have to.
I'm not seeing this, the material stockpile.
It's on the other side. It's on
So
the other
it's-
side of the building.
Yeah,
With
it's
it.
where my cursor is.
I'm all set. No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Tony? Okay, so we need a motion to continue.
So moved.
Guess that was easy.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. All set.
Thanks for coming, Libby.
All right, next one. 242-1816, 325 Johnson Street.
Alrighty. So this project involves construction of a two-car detached garage, a dry well to collect new roof runoff, gravel driveway extension with associated tree removal and grading, abandonment of a septic system or cesspool and connection to town sewer, connection to gas service, 2 concrete pads for anticipated heat pump and generator. Work will occur within a 100-foot buffer zone to fringe BBW, bank of an intermittent stream, and pond. This is also within the watershed district. It's been before the ZBA last night. It received its approval, and it will be before the planning board middle of August?
I've already had one hearing.
Okay, all right, so they had a third-party peer review for the stormwater. Let's see, the stream was reviewed in 2002 under a DEP superseding ORAD. and determined to be intermittent. We had the applicant's engineer provide updated stream stats, which confirmed that intermittent status. The garage will be 55 feet from the bank of the intermittent stream at its closest point. The existing gravel driveway is within the 25-foot, but the new gravel expansion is outside of the 25. Most of the gas connection is outside jurisdiction. The cesspool is just inside the buffers, and about 1/3 of the sewer line will be inside the buffer zone. Let's see. Jack Sullivan, project engineer, is here this evening. He's responded to the Horsley-Witten comments to Horsley-Witten's satisfaction, revised the plan to bolster erosion controls and show trees that are going to be removed. And the dry well is properly sized for capacity. So that's all I have. So Jack.
Joe?
I don't have anything yet.
Jack?
I have no questions.
Al?
One question, Jack. The 24-inch RCP drain pipe at flags 1B and 4A, is that a crossing?
Does it go under Johnson Street?
It's on the property. It's got flags 4A, 3A and 4A, 2B and 1B. It's a 24-inch RCP. It's described as a drain pipe. It has a head wall on the...
Oh, up here? On the
yeah,
top.
Yeah.
Oh, right, there's a footpath over that.
So that's a crossing?
It's a crossing.
Okay, it's an existing crossing?
Yep, correct.
Okay, not a new crossing?
Not a new crossing.
All right,
It's
thank you,
existing.
that's all I had.
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any questions pertaining to the application. The only one thing I do is what was the purpose of, did you give them a cross analysis for moving the building closer to the house?
I did. And Amy had sent me an email asking me if there was a potential of moving this closer to the house. As you move closer to the house, there's existing retaining walls, an existing walkway. So from where you see the garage now, as you move, where the cesspool is, it's 6 feet higher in elevation. And right now, this garage is set about 6 inches higher than the existing gravel driveway, so it's going to be a flat extension. We were trying to really just limit the amount of driveway to be extended and kind of work with the existing grade. So if we moved the garage close to the house, there'd be more site work involved. We'd have to remove retaining walls. We might have to relocate a walkway. So we felt with this location, it was the least disturbance, and where we're in the watershed, we were trying to show to the planning board, we kind of picked the best spot to have the least disturbance within the watershed.
I would just, because of practicality, if I was building a garage, I'd want it close to the house, but
Yeah.
that, and I think it's doable, because, only reason why I say that was because you're still looking for the same relief.
Yeah.
It's not, it was just more as excavation. That's why I asked if you gave them a cost analysis. That's the only question I have.
Yeah, they actually picked, when I did the existing conditions plan, they staked out where they would like it, thinking it would be, because you can see the site's heavily treed. They thought it would be the least impact to the property, and then I located their stakes and placed the garage where they wanted it.
Okay.
So that was the reason.
Yep. Sean?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
Motion?
So we'll have to continue to the 8th, and I'll draft a decision, and we can close and issue that night.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
Jack.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jack.
Everett's gonna get it. Next one is 242-1818 Rayborn Road, bank stabilization.
Okay, so, since the last meeting, the commission had requested additional information. One piece of information was the cost estimate. Geotechnical report was provided and performed by EP Environmental Partners, and the groundwater analysis performed by McLean Environmental LLC was also provided. I can go through a summary of each if you'd like, or we've got Representative
I think
EP here tonight.
They just got that, the review tonight, the guys, the special, you sent them out before that,
I
right?
emailed him. But
Joe, do you have any questions right now? Or you want?
So I haven't had a chance to dive into the responses yet, but what concerns we had the last time they were here was concern with cutting off groundwater migration off that hill that moves underneath down off the hill, through the soil horizons, underneath the roadway, finding its way to the lake. And if the sheet piling were to somehow cut that off and hold it back into the road, concerns with frost heaving for the soil piping, water piping, and the road itself. So we, again, not knowing the facts, just concerned with those possibilities. We asked them to report that back. I suspect that's what this does, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Yeah, so we just addressed each one of the questions in the cover memo. There is a separate, sort of like a PowerPoint presentation that shows the groundwater analysis on the site. The finding is that there'll be maybe 8 inches of mounding behind the sheet wall, worst case, and that's still over 4.5 feet to 5 feet below ground. So we're not going to expect any frost heaving or things like that. So there are things we can do with the sheeting itself to help mitigate even that, put some weep holes in and that sort of thing. So it's actually page 12 shows the
12.
the groundwater flow underneath.
Okay. Is this the one?
Next one. Yeah.
No, he's answering the question.
Yeah, that was really the main question I had on my mind too, was that mounding and the potential frost heaving. It sounds like we're pretty clear of that, to be verified by our third-party consultant, right?
So Bob, the mounting analysis, that
Engage
was
that, yes.
as if the sheet piling were continuous, but you said there were gaps.
There-
From what I
there are
remember, there are
gaps.
gaps.
Yeah,
So it's
there are-
going to be, basically, you're going to be relieving some of that mounting possibility by
We have
by
like
the...
sort of a relief built in. Our geotech and the geotech memo said you can put weep holes
Weep
in the
holes.
sheeting itself to further that. So we can do that.
Okay, I'm all set.
No question.
So I guess the groundwater analysis, that's where I'm kind of stuck. You're calling for approximately 8 inches of groundwater rise under the roadway, and it was performed by McLean Environmental LLC. Is that something that is reviewed by our consultant?
We have not engaged a third party.
We have not. Okay. I'm good for
I
right
mean,
now.
we didn't vote to do it.
Pardon me?
You guys didn't vote to do it yet.
Got it. Okay, I'll let it go down the table and see where the discussion goes.
The third-party review didn't get brought up because at the time, there was a lot of questions, and most of it was the water on the opposite side of the road. And evidently, he's answered that to your satisfaction. But
That's the groundwater breakout concern that I had.
Yeah, not the
I think I still have the surface, during a frozen winter condition, the sheet flow that comes off that hill, getting in that swale on the opposite side of the road. There was some discussion, there's a cross culvert there,
There's a catch basin.
catch basin and a pipe.
And a pipe to the outfall.
And I
Yes.
forget, it's been so long now. You replacing that pipe?
No, we're going to replace the head wall.
The head
on
wall.
But
On
we
the
have,
discharge side.
we have contingencies in case we have to replace the pipe if it, collapses as we're excavating,
You know that pipe's in good condition?
from what we can see, yes.
The other part of that conversation, from what I recall, was we thought that perhaps a stormwater management BMP.
We were talking about a separator instead of because we have included the manhole to be potentially replaced if,
Yeah.
you know,
Are
during.
you using a catch basin with something, or using a water quality inlet?
We haven't determined that. We were talking about a storm scepter of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked to DPW about that. The fact is that there's only one catch basin going to this, and it's the only,
You're not going to get,
it's not going to do much. And plus, they'll have to maintain it on that road. So they prefer not to have a water quality control structure there.
same conversation we had with DOT in the last meeting. Why it didn't make sense there either.
No.
So do we agree that A storm scepter is not applicable here?
If it's only one catch basin, I would say
Little overkill.
it's a pretty large culvert, that's why I kind of thought that there might have been more going to it, but there's no reason to doubt it.
All right, I'm satisfied then. Okay, thank you.
I had questioned this storm stuff that long, originally because the DPW said it wasn't cost effective, so I was like, that doesn't fly.
Yeah.
But upon looking at the recommendation stuff, I knew that it wasn't gonna work. The question is I'm with Joe on it, is that I'm worried about the subsurface water getting stopped by a 30-foot sheathing, only with a 6-inch gap along the way. So that's the part that I think the drainage should be improved, so for subsurface water, to make an opening or whatever you have to do to make sure that there isn't any retention on the side of the road or to back up to cause the heaving on the roadway.
I think the best way to do that is basically perforate the sheeting with some weep holes so it can flow through the sheeting itself underground.
But you think 6 inches between sheathing is enough?
Well, it's actually a little more because it's around the pipe. But this is assuming this model is assuming a continuous sheeting. So even without that. So if you prefer, I don't have a problem adding weep holes to the whole thing.
What I don't want to do is introduce too many penetrations through sheet pipe, we can only cause potential for corrosion and failure.
Yeah, so
Because
we're gonna,
if you full of bullet holes, it's just gonna fold over and lose some structural integrity, so you're talking about periodically, not
yeah, we're not gonna,
continuous.
it's not gonna be like a perforated pipe, right? So what we can do is we can look at, how many weep holes would really be necessary to not have any,
Backup.
groundwater.
Okay, Sean,
No questions.
Tony?
For an 8-inch rise, I don't think it's a huge issue. And I was out there fishing 2 weekends ago, and I found the sinkhole out there. There's probably a 2-foot diameter sinkhole. It goes down, and you can see the footing of the wall through that sinkhole. So I think it's getting to the point that something needs to be done.
Tony, what do you think, is that,
Are you talking at the concrete wall that's up there?
Yes, I
That-
snapped a picture of it. I was kind of shocked.
by the
It's
sign
right
up
at,
there?
yeah.
That's actually another spot.
So
That's
there's
at the
more
cul-
throughout the.
Oh, yes.
All right, so I was kind of shocked when I saw that's how bad the water's moving through there.
That's by the
Oh, yeah.
culvert from Ray's Pond,
Yeah,
right
that's-
over that area.
Yeah,
We know about that one too.
all right, so if there are others like that, then I would be more concerned about what's going through those areas than the 8-inch backup. If it's, I was just worried that it was going to be sands and you'd get huge fluctuations, but if they're getting an 8-inch change, it's more of a till swale.
So, the third-party commission, this come up again. Are you comfortable with not having a third-party review?
so what we have is we have a real competent engineering firm that we would typically consider to be hired as a third-party reviewer, working on behalf of the town, and the town has its own staff engineer. If there were ever an opportunity to say, we probably don't need it, given the level of review it gets, this is probably it. I know it's a little unorthodox, as we almost always require in something complicated, but I think we're surrounded by competent folks here. And from
Everybody feel
what
that way?
our concerns that we've raised, they seem to be logical explanations behind them.
Everybody else feel that way?
I mean, all of this stuff is over my head, so I really rely on you folks. If there's any, if you guys lack the comfort that we need as a group to go forward, then yeah, I would say yeah, but if you guys think it's in your wheelhouse, then
What do you
I'll
think,
support
Tony?
you.
I mean, the groundwater model seemed reasonable. I just thought that it should be considered, which they did. The willingness to add some additional weep holes will probably further mitigate that. There is still the issue of if we add riprap below the high water line, you will need a Chapter 91 permit. So if you add riprap below the high water line, you'd need to get a Chapter 91 permit for that, but I think that could be done later.
Very hard
Very
not to.
trying not to do that.
Yeah, so, and I think that the sheet pile will mitigate for having to do that, because it's either or, correct? In most.
Yes,
uh,
yes.
And then, yeah, I didn't see anything too bad, and then seeing the extent of the sinkholes out there, you know, kind of makes me a little leery as to not moving forward.
So if we don't need any more information, I'm gonna move to continue this so that we can close it at the next meeting.
Second.
Just before I vote, take a vote, you have, you know about their concerns, and you're gonna make note of them, right? To rectify the concerns of these two gentlemen in the end?
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you bring Ben in here?
Ben Osgood,
Let
in the
him know
teal
we're gonna
shirt.
take his out of order now. Good observation there.
So you want to take to it?
Good evening. I just want to let you know you're the most popular guy in this room. I don't know if we're not going to get that far.
Well,
Yeah, just set it out of the way for the moment, and,
Question, Amy,
Yep.
is the application complete?
not yet.
Not yet.
No, we are owed wildlife habitat study and stream crossing standards and some other details that DEP has requested.
Okay, and we have some questions from DEP, and Amy has some questions also. Based on, I know you want to open, I personally don't know why, but you have a lot of butters here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you open it. We're gonna close. I'm not gonna have a butter input. All I want you to do is just to give us a 5-minute synopsis of what this is.
60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Because your application is incomplete, and we rely upon our administrator to tell us that, okay? And that won't be debated here. You will have 60 seconds to open, and then we're gonna continue.
Yep.
And maybe schedule a site visit with some of the commission
Yes.
members?
And we can do that
Yes.
too.
Okay.
I mean, my goal is just to give a real quick overview, schedule a site visit. It's a site you have to look at. It's an existing lot, it's on Katuitt Street. It's in compliance with zoning. It was created before zoning. So it just happens to still comply. It has if I could, I just want to walk over the easel here. This is the lot here. Layton Street, Katuitt Street. We have a wetland that comes across. This is the project we developed. There's some condos here, some duplexes. That brook continues down, crosses this property. We've delineated the wetland. We've delineated the brook itself, which is in orange. We've delineated the bank, which is in red. Buffer zones. So obviously it's a buffer zone project. We're proposing to cross the wetlands with an open bottom arch culvert, which meets the stream standards. I mean, we meet the stream standards. Now we're crossing, obviously there's buffer zone work. We have wetland replacement areas with a house up here outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. It's a tight lot, admittedly, but it's a lot that meets zoning. The area has small lots, so it's a tight lot. I think we've done a pretty good job. I mean, DEP had some comments. The wetland line is on there, the stream is on there. Maybe they couldn't see where they were. We're going to resubmit plans that had things better delineated. We'll get those this week to you. They're already done, and then we'll go from there. So.
Thank you. So when you continue, just for you to look it up in the meantime, I don't have my plan with me, but is that driveway gonna cross Layton Street?
It's the I mean it's the intersection of Layden and Katuitt. I mean, where do you say it's Layden or Katuitt? I'm not sure. Right here, so it's Katuitt Street, I believe. It's a Katuitt Street address.
Well,
according to
my
the
question
assessors.
is, and you'll have to research it, with DPW, can you cross a right-of-way on a paper street? And who owns the other side? So I think
I believe it's a public street, actually. And I'm not.
Layton is laid out and prescribed, but not accepted.
Right.
So it's still a private way, as is Katuitt for that matter.
Yeah.
And at least in this stretch, as you turn around the corner and as you get down to Brewster, its status changes somewhat. But so using a driveway out in the layout will be no different than getting from the edge of a roadway to the frontage of your property. Typically, it's 10 feet. In this instance, it's just a little bit wider.
Right.
Layden is not improved at all.
No.
In fact, on the other, did you represent the other there were the condos here, but there was also one over at the other side. That's a Layden address.
Right. So Layden Street is paved down to here.
Yeah.
And then
I just
Katuitt is
want to
paved
get
here. So it's
information.
a little section that was never constructed.
Right, but like I said, that's a point of, I'd be interested in,
Mhm.
make sure that you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Crossing a public way, it's a private way, but it's owned to.
It's a good point. What I'm seeing is the structural improvement is the culvert itself. That is on the private property.
Right.
Not within the layout.
Right. It's just driveway in the layout. We're coming off of the paved surface just into our property.
Okay, all right, so,
Just to put it out there, this begs the question, I mean, there's no, it's a waiver, it's a categorical waiver, and the state law, it's a limited project, it's the only way into the lot, so, but that doesn't hold true to the bylaw, so it's still a waiver to our bylaw.
But it's incomplete in terms of the data that Amy needs to validate all the delineations, and it's just not complete. It's too far away.
all right, so we're gonna continue it, well,
So moved.
That's fine.
and that'll give, the abutters time to digest the next
When
meeting.
do you want a sidewalk? Before you finish your delineation out there, or after? Because I know you've got work to do out there.
Yeah, Ben and I walked it.
Yeah,
It's reasonable, it's pretty jungle-like.
yep.
But I feel more comfortable if the commission would have their eyes on it, just to get an understanding. So whenever it works for you, it doesn't matter to me.
So the question then, 2 weeks or 4 weeks?
Well,
No,
It's 4 weeks anyway.
It's 4
Our
weeks
next meeting
anyway.
now and our next meeting.
say it again?
It's 4 weeks between now and our next meeting. That's why we're
Right.
continuing even
To
things that
8.
we would ordinarily.
There's no
close.
meeting in, no other meeting in
no,
August?
no,
No.
no.
How about that?
You get a vacation.
I thought we were meeting
Get a
the
vacation.
25th, I thought, no?
No, you get a vacation.
Take that day off.
Who's on vacation?
You guys.
All right.
Is it paid?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get, I know.
So we're getting 20% of
One
that?
and a half,
Okay.
no.
We get to use the North Andover Villa that week.
All right, so then, I'm sorry,
So I move to continue.
second.
Just have a question, we've never had it before, we get so many butters. Do butters get to go on sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay, so.
With the permission
With
of
the
the
permission of
private
the owner, I'll have to
property
ask
owner.
the owner.
Right.
Okay,
Who, it's in an estate now, the owner passed away.
so,
I don't know if I can get his permission right now.
Come on, you could do it all.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't want the abutters to be able to.
I know, I just don't want it to become a screaming match. They're welcome to come and watch.
That's
but-
why we attend these things,
Right.
we keep the
Right.
peace.
Yep,
We're pretty good at it, we guaranteed your safety tonight.
right.
We did?
Just in this room.
Yeah,
Yeah, once
right.
you leave here, you're on your
You're
own.
on your own, that's right, Ben.
Okay.
So, may I make a suggestion to
Yes.
the
Yes.
abutters, just to keep things streamlined. If you guys could submit your comments in writing ahead of the September 8th meeting, that would be really helpful. I could disseminate them to the commission, and then they'll have it, so they'll be more ready for discussion. It'll help streamline it.
I'm sorry, I'm in a butter, but I don't really understand what's going on. Like, I don't,
Okay.
I mean, he got to speak, so are we allowed to speak as
The
well?
next meeting.
Yeah, when,
I don't think my stress level can handle
Okay.
the next meeting in September. I mean, we just have a few, clearly there's a few people here
Right.
that are opposed to it. We actually have a petition that's been signed by over 100 people.
Everybody's going to want to speak.
It's over wetlands.
how many people want to talk? Be reasonable now. How many want to talk?
I think we all. I mean, I can speak for as many.
We're gonna help you here.
I'm sure there are many that will.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to allow
My
this,
name is
this about,
Patty.
Okay.
And I
Get-
live in.
to,
up here.
Okay.
Yeah, you
go to
can
the
sit-
table.
you can- Yeah, you can
To,
sit.
Feel free, guys.
Go to the table.
Come on up.
You're gonna be on TV. Just give us your name and
Oh,
address.
I'm good with that.
All right.
So I am in a butter.
That's
I
your-
live at 10 Kingston
your
Street.
name?
Patty Aloisi,
And your address.
10 Kingston Street.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Go ahead.
You're very welcome. So clearly I'm in a butter. We actually have a petition going. Like I said, it's about 108, maybe 10 signatures of people that are clearly opposed to it. It goes over wetlands. They're trying to say that it's just a small intermittent brook that I've been there 8 years. It hasn't stopped running since. It flows over rocks, trees, forms puddles, pools of water. It runs all the way from, I think it's Village Green, the drive, runs all the way behind Kingston Street, all the way to Village Green West. That's where it forms all its pools. We have tons of wildlife that lives there. I have photographs to prove it. And then I know no one's thinking about the winter now because it's 90 degrees out, but they're putting a driveway in, or hopefully they're not putting a driveway in. And we're not concerned about the salt or the sand and the rock salt that could be spread, go into the groundwater. Village Green has huge water issues anyway. We're built on a marsh, lots of people get water in their basements, and this proposal is ripping up 5 huge, mature, 40-year-old trees. And they absorb a lot of water. And quite frankly, on a personal level, it's 8 feet from my backyard. It's 8 feet from my walkway. So I think a lot of people feel that way. I hope a lot of people feel that way. That just doesn't make any sense. It's not even part of our complex. We've been taking care of the property for 40 more years. We've been taking care of the trees. I actually just got an email, 45 years. I just got an email that they hired an arborist to trim the trees. So we've been caring for it. We've been taking care of it. We've been mowing it. We've been trimming it for all these years. But the most important thing is the wildlife and the wetlands, you know. Pardon me? And yeah, I mean, it's right there. I mean, it is right there. It would be like me here in my home and it being right there. That's a big problem to our whole building. Water, big problem. Wildlife, big problem. Wetlands, big problem. Nobody benefits from this except for maybe one person. One person. Nobody benefits from it.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody else can chime in, please. We need this support. I do have the petition. I do have photographs.
So what,
I'm telling you, this is near and dear to my heart. I love where I live, and the reason why I moved to North Andover is because of what I get to look at.
so the.
This would just be right there.
What struck me when you were talking about the stream, the definition of the stream, that's kind of important. Historical data is considered. If you could get the information on the stream to Amy, that's the kind of stuff that we can consider.
So what kind of information is helpful?
So it's in non-drought years, any stream that dries up for more than 4 consecutive days in a 12-month period is intermittent. But if it's consistently running, it's perennial.
Consistently, sir. Consistently. I have
Has there been
photographs,
a-
I have videos, I have taken everything.
But just for the applicant's benefit as well, I don't know if a stream stats analysis was done, but I did a quick sketch of the watershed. It's pretty large. It goes all the way up to the Franklin schools. So
I'm just gonna say, it's not just to
Yeah,
the
so
highway, goes
there's
way
a,
further.
yeah, so it'd be interesting just to see if the stream stats kicks it over a square mile or half a square mile, if it has the right underlying conditions, which would make it perennial. They still may have options under a limited project, but a perennial stream is protected much more than an intermittent stream is. It's under the Rivers Act. There's a 200-foot buffer instead of a 100-foot buffer. So these are things that we're considering. There's issues with intermittent stream without a wildlife habitat study. You're only allowed to alter 10% or 50 feet. You count both sides of the intermittent stream. It's a 25-foot crossing, so he's going up to the 50-foot limit, but I don't believe that there's 500 linear feet of bank there, so it would be something less than that. So the crossing would have to be narrower, which runs into some fire department issues as to it has to be 20 feet wide if it's over 150 feet long to get a truck down there. So it's not going to be something that's going to be decided upon in one night. It's going to be some back and forth. There's some additional information needed. I think the suggestion that, coming up and speaking is difficult. I respect that, and I think everyone who comes up should be commended for it. But maybe getting your thoughts in writing, and focusing on, yeah, and focusing on conservation issues.
No, and I think Tony's point, just to reiterate, it's as romantic and as involved as you may be emotionally with this, it really comes down to very simple analysis. And the facts are the facts, and they can be calculated. So these are all great things that you feel and are important to you and your neighbors. But the reality is, there's a very simple analysis to answer that question, period.
The question, answer the question, what is the,
Whether it's a brook or not, and if it is a brook, what you need to do about it.
Intermittent or perennial, and that's based on historical data.
okay.
You say you have historical data, that's the kind of stuff you need to.
It's not just historical data. It's historical data based on statistics and based on climate and, what is going on in a given year.
But
And
that's
it's
the
based on
important
hydraulics, based on the stream
Yeah,
stats.
so the
Based on your watershed
watershed
area.
size, underlaid material.
It's a simple calculation.
And this is some of the information that we're lacking as well. So I think the applicant needs to provide some additional information so we can make an educated decision. I think any information you put down on paper and get it in, that way it's in the record. It also helps by getting it in there. You can think about it, and I know being put on the spot, kind of like you are now, is a difficult thing to do. I'm sure there's things that you want to have in, so we'll have that, and then at the next meeting we'll have hopefully the opportunity to speak, and then we're going to visit the site at some point.
We would appreciate that, because I think you would be able to tell when you get there that it doesn't just run every now and then, it's consistently running all the time.
I know you haven't probably been before the commission before, but one thing I can speak for them is that we've always been consistent. We don't rubber stamp anything, so we will
appreciate
address the
that.
stream, as Mr. Manzi said, that the application was incomplete, because there wasn't the water analysis, very important, stream crossing analysis. All that stuff is very critical. And any information you supply to that stream is perennial. Changes all the dimensions of the application. He has a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, but he has to supply us with the stuff we ask for, and Amy's very capable. And if you have any questions, please notify staff, because we've got 4 weeks to, if you have any questions or any issues, she'll answer all your questions, or more, as best she can. But this is far from being approved until we get the information that we need to feel comfortable. As Tony just did a lot of explaining to you,
Right.
which kind of Paul just went,
No,
because-
it didn't, I soaked it all in.
No, but I mean, it's if you're a layperson, it's difficult sometimes to understand all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand it, but I do know what it is,
But
what's
we
proposed.
understand your concerns. We will address your concerns, but we can't say that we're not gonna approve the project because it's 8 feet from your house, because that's.
Well, no, that was just a point I was pointing out, but, I get
Right.
that, more importantly, exactly what I said, the wetlands, it's very
That-
wet back there.
That's what we're here for, wetlands
Yeah.
only.
Yeah, coming to us and telling us that you're 8 feet from your house, which we think we can all appreciate the difficulty of that. It's like telling a parking person,
Right.
parking agent that somebody's speeding, you should pull them over. It's just not in our jurisdiction.
Right, but you know about the wetlands.
No.
So how do I get that information? How do we all get that information? How do I present that to you?
Staff?
Yep, you
Through you.
can, yeah, in writing, pictures,
You could also,
Observations
you
or-
could also hire your own consultant. One of the things that neighborhoods do when they want to go head-to-head against an applicant's consultant is to hire their own expert,
I would
a
do
wetland
that.
expert or a wetland scientist. You would hire that person, and they would do research on your behalf, and then the statistics would all come to us, the information would come to us, and we would make a decision based on the submittals of all the parties.
And we
As Tony pointed out, there's a lot of data that we need to get that would help us consider it.
And to put that in perspective, our wetlands protection bylaw in North Andover identifies, I believe it's 7 rivers, named rivers in town, and this is not one of them. So it's, I don't want to say it's an uphill battle, but it's not identified as a river, as a perennial stream. It needs to be proven, so.
And also, I'll
Yeah,
just say
well-
I do
that,
have quite a few pictures if you'd like to look.
and Al's correct, he just let you know that there are consultants out there. We're not recommending that you
No,
get
no,
a
no, I get
consultant
it,
or
I
anything
get
like
it,
that,
yeah.
but he's just letting you
But
know
if it's a
out there.
neighborhood thing, and all of you pool together to do it, it's your best bet to have an expert on your behalf.
I do have a question for Amy, just because I've heard it mentioned from the audience and from the speaker this evening, is that there's a petition and there's a list of concerns. I mean, do we have that yet?
I have it here.
Because
I didn't know where to find it,
we
to
should
be
accept that as in the record and,
That's a good start.
so we'll get it
That's
in
a
the
good
record,
start.
we'll review it for the next meeting.
Well, I'll give it to you, sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is there some kind of rule of like how close you can build a house next to, near a river, like how many feet?
Well, Brooke, or,
It's
There are setbacks and there are exceptions, and we have to consider all of them.
We have to wait till we get the,
That thing all said and done, less than 100 feet from that river.
we have to
Oh,
get the data.
no. So that's the misnomer. So if they will, river has a buffer of 200 feet, and if they're doing anything within that 200 feet, it brings them here. If it wasn't a river, it was just a wetland, anything they proposed within the 100 feet brings them here. If they were greater than 100 feet and it wasn't a river, they'd go to the building department, get a building permit. They wouldn't be here. So the misnomer is that you can't do anything within 100 feet. That's not true. They can't do anything without coming here and getting a permit within 100 feet. They can be with a building no closer than 50 feet, and with an improvement no closer than 25 feet, without this commission considering a waiver. That's what we're going to debate. We're going to look at wildlife habitat, we're going to look at stormwater to the extent that it applies. We're going to look at what that resource area is. Is it a brook? Is it a perennial stream or intermittent stream? And based on that, we know, because we're professionals, we're volunteer professionals, but we do this, for some of us for almost 30 years. We know what to look for, and I think the faith that you should have in us is that we do our job consistently, as it was said earlier. And we're going to look at it in that light. And we try to filter, we try to be sympathetic to what is important to you folks, but we filtered through it knowing what it is that our charge is. And that is to uphold our bylaw, wetlands bylaw, and to uphold the state Wetlands Preservation Act, Protection Act. And that's the limitation of what we have here. It seems cold. The reality is it's very, very simple process. And, we try to not let the emotion get into it, but we're going to gather all the facts to reach those decisions responsibly. And that's what we do. That's why we're here.
I'll be supplying you with a bunch of, oh, sure. You can take the whole folder.
Absolutely.
My main concern is the wildlife that would happen there. We enjoy it, all of us. Enjoy it.
Set?
I think he's.
We got, you want to speak small?
Dude,
I know we have the young man in front that wants to speak.
Oh, you want to speak? Go for it, buddy.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Michael Tinder.
And where do you live, Michael?
I live in 2 Kingston Street.
Okay. What's on your mind?
I was going to say, I like to play in the river and I like to catch animals there, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do in there. I like climbing trees.
What do you catch there?
I like to catch frogs and fish.
Nice.
The little minnows.
The little minutes.
Little minnows,
Yeah.
huh? Little minnows there?
That's good information, Michael.
interesting.
That's the kind of stuff we like to hear.
That's helpful.
That's helpful. That's good information. That
Just for,
helps.
Michael, just for the information, there's not a one of us sitting here, when we were your age, we did the same thing. Because it was important to us too.
All right, so we're gonna
Thank you, Michael.
put your information on the record, Michael, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Good night. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm gonna move that we continue.
to the 8th, September 8th.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
great,
Ben.
thanks. Yeah, go ahead, we'll go right ahead. That's fine.
Do it.
And if there's any other, you know, things that you want to send me, you can email me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's just too much. It's just, I just can't imagine. Here, I have some photographs. I don't know if this matters.
I'll take them, I can scan them in, that's fine, yep.
Yeah, no, I can take these. I have copies of them. This is just, see how the water is?
It's not a stream.
And I also want to send it to you.
Okay, next one is,
On the daily, here.
yeah, next,
That's right where we be. She's like, get out of here.
We have a lot of work to do here. We need to,
thank you. Next one is 242-1823,
affirmative,
292 Candlestick.
292 Candlestick.
Yeah, so we're circling back to 292 Candlestick.
Oh, I know this.
Good job, Sean.
That's how to operate that.
He's preparing for his black robe. Order. There will be order. 292 Candlestick, where is it?
Oh, because we're Cthulhu.
This one. This one.
I'm looking for it on my recommendations.
Okay, yeah. All righty, so 292 Candlestick. This NOI comes before you for a 12 by 18 above-ground pool to be partly set into the slope, partially within the 50-foot no-build zone to BBW, a deck expansion to meet the pool elevation partially within the 50-foot no-build, paver steps off of the pool between the house and the pool, a 6 by 10 shed on the driveway that is partially within the 50-foot no-build, removal of yard waste and leaf dumping area within the 25-foot no-disturb zone as mitigation, and 185 square feet enhancement planting area within the 25 as mitigation. The waiver request has been submitted. Analysis identifies the only other location for a pool would be at the easterly side of the house, but this location would still result in a 50-foot no-build zone encroachment due to zoning setbacks, and the slope of this side of the house is more steep, requiring more earthwork. The deck is open underneath, as opposed to a patio, as noted in their narrative. The pool has been kept to a reasonable size and is entirely within lawn or crushed stone walkway area. And we have Greg Hockmuth here with Williams and Sparagus this evening, and the applicant's with us. That's it.
I don't have my plans with me, but isn't this the one that has the structures, some structures?
No, that's the
No,
920
that's
Johnson
920
Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this one does have an existing wooden deck, a freestanding wooden deck that straddles the 25 and the 50. It's right here. It's old, and I feel like forget what, was it 2001? Okay,
Yeah, I think it's been
I
there
missed
about
that.
12 years.
yeah, okay, so. So
according to some of the
before,
neighbors.
right. So that's the, we have a construction, oh, that's not the right plan. Let me get the right plan up. So we have a construction access shown around the house, past the septic system to Candlestick Road.
Was the deck permitted?
No, so it probably started out as a tree fort, and then they turned it into just a wood platform. It looks a lot worse than it is, but directly adjacent to it, there is a leaf pile that the new owners are more than willing to remove. It was from the prior owners, so we've made that part of our restoration plan, but we didn't incorporate that square footage in our proposed enhancement area. We know this commission does not like to grant waivers, and it's very difficult to get a waiver for anything in the no-build zone here. But I do think this project passes the straight face test, and I can explain why. The pool itself, it's an above-ground pool, but the idea is to try to make it look kind of like an in-ground pool, so it's being cut into the slope a little bit. And it's going to have a decorative stone face around it to give the illusion that it's an in-ground pool. But that stone face will be 3 to 4 feet high. And on the house side, between the pool and the house, there'll only be about 2 feet of that showing. So it's going to be cut into the slope a little bit. It's all existing lawn or landscaped areas. We did try to get it as close to the house as possible. We're 10.1 feet. The building department requires 10. And the idea was to keep it parallel with the existing house to help get it as close to the house as possible, and in turn get it as far away from the resource areas as possible. I suspect this wetland's grown since the house was built in 1993, because as you can see, there's a lot of work in the no-build zone that certainly would not have been permitted by this commission. As mitigation for the proposed pool, we're proposing to give up a maintained lawn area and to put in native plantings, and to stop maintenance in that area altogether. And that's this green area that we've colored here. This other green area here is where the landscape debris is. I expect that once that landscape debris is removed, the existing seed bank will just come back up through the area, so no need for additional plantings there. The work's going to be done using one of those small, it's called a dingo. It's even smaller than a bobcat. It's something you stand on, it's got a little bucket, and it's literally just going to be cutting into that slope a little bit. Materials will be removed from this temporary access path. Some stone dust will be brought in, and then the above-ground pool will be placed on that stone dust. Erosion controls are proposed during the whole construction effort, and once this is done, the temporary access road will be re-scarified. Some additional loam will be placed if needed, and it will just be loamed and seeded. The shed, we looked at some different spots for the shed. This is where all the garage bays are. One option to get it 50 feet away would be to cut into the hill here. The problem is this is a knobble ledge, and there's a lot of mature trees. So even though the shed is proposed partially in the no-build zone, 80% of it's over the existing paved driveway, and the other small slivers over an existing landscape bed, which is bark mulch. And it's flat, so there's no earth moving that would need to be done. So it just made sense to place the shed there. It's 6 by 10, so it's small. But there really are no other options that would get this pool closer to the house, further from the wetlands. This is the best spot for it, and unfortunately, it requires a waiver. There's the stone path that Amy was describing. We do have a file number. There's no comments. It wasn't mapped for estimated or priority habitat. Thor Akerley from our office delineated the resource area boundaries. I believe Amy took a look at them. Yep. Thor didn't find any evidence that this resource area was functioning as an ephemeral pool, which would have made the setbacks even worse. It truly is a buffer zone project, but it's in your no-build zone. Yep.
don't know where to begin, other than respectfully disagree of the impacts of a pool being in the 50-foot no-build, a new expanded deck being within the 50-foot no-build, and a shed being proposed within the 50-foot no-build. So it's literally one big waiver for three different things, three different components, and I understand the site's constrained and there's really probably no other alternative, but, you know, sometimes the other alternative is a no-build situation. Getting back area that's currently a violation, technically, now maybe this is so old that it was something that's been historically been ongoing out there. I mean, I don't see that necessarily as a trade-off. So I'll defer to my colleagues and let me think about it as I hear what you folks think about it.
Yeah, I guess I would have to start with, this is a tough one. And I look at the consistency of the commission in our decisions in the past, and pools in the 50-foot, even above-ground pools, I believe, have not been allowed, decks or sheds either. So it's, I guess I would just agree with much of what Joe said, that you know, we've consistently not approved such waivers, and I'm looking at the site, and you know, you're looking at where else you might put it, and it doesn't look like it fits anywhere else. I agree with that. So I guess the no build option is one that the applicant doesn't want to hear, but that would be consistent with how the commission has ruled in the past. So again, this is a tough one. This would be a tough one to approve for us, in my opinion.
Thank you, Jack. Al?
So Greg, as you know, the standards for a waiver on your alternatives analysis, you must avoid, minimize, mitigate. I'd like you to just bring me up to speed on how you addressed each one of those aspects.
So we're proposing the pool as close to the house as possible. We're trying to minimize earthwork to create a flat area by cutting into the slope a little bit. So we're not bringing in fill or needing to put a retaining wall in to raise it. We've selected a spot that's parallel with the house to allow us to square the pool off. It's 12 by 18. It's not a big pool. We've proposed a non-backwash filtration system, which should be a cartridge filter. No need to backwash into the resource areas. It's within existing lawn or landscaped areas. As mitigation for the encroachment, we're proposing to give up an area of maintained lawn that's been maintained since the house was built. I do suspect the wetlands probably got worse over the years, and that's why you do see, as Commissioner Lynch pointed out, that it's technically in an area that would be a violation. I don't suspect it was when the house was built. So in our eyes, getting more of a vegetated buffer in an area that's maintained lawn to allow a minor encroachment into the no-build zone for an elevated deck over landscaped areas, stone patio, and maintained lawn, it just seems to make sense. We looked at trying to enhance other areas on the lot to give more mitigation for the proposed encroachment, but as you can see from the photos, it's already lush, and it wouldn't make sense to try to put any plants back in that existing buffer areas. So we've, I guess to answer your question, we've tried to keep it all as close to the house as possible and not get greedy, put a small pool in, keep it above ground, not go in ground, avoid retaining walls, non-backwash filtration system. The deck's elevated, and there will be spacing between the deck. Water will still be able to infiltrate. I don't see any impact to the resource area as a result of this project.
Do you feel you can add more mitigation?
Well, if we had to, we could probably find a few spots here and there. we'd have to go back out and take a closer look.
Okay, thank you.
It's a tough one. Greg, now, you've been before us many times. And if we are anything, it's consistent. I think we are. No build is no build. Even if I was gonna bend a little bit, the shed, I wouldn't be in favor of the shed at all, because it's not necessary. And the pool is, you know, I listen to my fellow commissioners on that, but, and Amy shows me these plans all the time, and particularly the shed, right next to it, it says no build. So it makes you look like, well, wait a minute, it says no build, and there's a structure there. It's like, well, I know the applicant wants it, but we have our bylaws, and we try and be consistent. I can't say you can have a shed, and Taylor can't have a shed. You know, because you can't, there's no place else for you to put it. So I'm trying to be consistent, but this is a tough one. Sean?
Well, the applicant should know that you've got a very well-respected consultant here in front of us and a very good, very good advocate. But I don't know if this is a tough one from my perspective. I think this is just something that clearly is not allowable. It requires multiple waivers, and for all the reasons that you guys have already said, I'm not going to repeat the consistency and precedent aspect of it, but that's very important to me that we stay consistent and you know, be uniform in our precedent, and this would certainly fly against that. And I'm sorry for that, but that's my opinion.
Tony?
I don't have the history here, so the precedent really doesn't come to mind, but I am a little torn. That the shed kind of was the one that jumped out at me, especially where it could be placed entirely on previous impervious surfaces. I do get that it's landscaping. The pool doesn't bother me so much if there was some more mitigation. And, you know, my first thought was, what's coming off the roof? Are there dry wells currently? If dry wells could be added as kind of a sort of give back. But as far as consistency, I have seen other projects like this not fly with the commission. So I don't know that my willingness to offer some suggestions is going to help too much.
Well, I think what we'd like to do, if the commission would allow, is to request a continuance, just to allow us to go back to the site and see if there is something else that we can do to make this a little easier to digest and benefit the resource areas.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Because I want to make sure I'm clear in my mind as I think about this over the next few weeks. The conversation about the wooden deck and whether it was permitted or not, that was the smaller tree fort, the isolated one out in the woods, not the one attached to the house. One of the attached house was permitted.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. I
Yeah.
want to be clear on that, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I should point out too, Mr. Billings purchased the property this past winter. They've only been there since December, actually moved in this past March. So a lot of the work that was done out there was from the prior owners. And in conversations with the abutters, that's how we learned that the rough age of that platform was around 12 years old.
Yeah, the applicant is, like to speak,
Is it
right?
okay for me to talk? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to do everything by the book. It's something I've learned from my father, who was on select boards and everything like that, which is why
Would you go with Greg
Sure.
next, Greg, please?
I'm Ross Billings, by the way. Thank you for going by the work. I understand what you guys are saying. I know this is not a humility thing, but so the only reason we're even attempting this, I actually called the building department before I purchased the house because I said a no negotiation for me is I need to have some sort of swimming. I have a daughter with disabilities, learning disabilities. It's like her one thing. And I know that doesn't mean anything because this is a different commission and that's fine, which is why we're in here. The shed, I don't care. If that's a big deal, they were asked, where do you put the chemicals and everything like that? On the no-build zone against the AC, I can put a standalone box to put something. It was suggested, like, do you have a shed to put something? And I said, well, I could put one here that wouldn't disturb anything. So if that's a big deal, I don't really care about a lot of the other stuff. I have 3 little kids. I'm sure all you guys have dealt with it. It's something for a therapeutic thing for them, which is, my kids are everything. It's a no negotiation thing. So like if I don't get a shed to put the chemicals in, I'll find somewhere else to put them. I'll put them next to the side of the house and walk around. Like that kind of stuff I'm not worried about. So I just wanted to say, like, for your consideration, it sounded like that was a concern. It's not to me. I'm willing to bend and be, done everything I can to, our dream house was an in-ground pool with pavers and everything like that to get into an education system that was well respected. We found a house, and I've spent more money than I probably should have making it what we needed it to be. And I've bent to say, I want to be as reasonable as possible. I'll do an above ground pool. I'll do this, whatever I can to be there. If there's any other suggestions to make that possible is all I'm concerned about.
So you said you called the building department?
About permitting, and then I actually did call and looked at with someone in the conservation office. I said, this is the wetlands, and I know you can only see from 30,000 feet from the actual wetland zone. I said, there's something we should be able to figure out, because it looked, if you look at the wetlands from the GIS map, it looks much further away than it actually is, apparently.
That wasn't me.
No, that's okay, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, if you asked me that question, I wouldn't have given you any level of comfort whatsoever.
Right.
When people ask me, I'm gonna buy this house, can I get a pool in? Don't know.
Right.
Go get yourself a wetland person to go get the wetlands delineated.
Right, and when you and I met, that's what you actually did say, and
Right.
that's where.
So in the
Right.
Conservation
I mean-
Department's defense, whoever did give you that information, looking at Mass GIS, the wetlands do show much further from the house.
But I think we're all well into knowing what GIS limits are for, people with experience. GIS gives you a hunch, but that's it. There's no on the ground, at all, right?
So it's there.
Someone who didn't know, it's all I was looking at.
Yeah, so I just wanted you to know it wasn't.
I see the 10-foot setback from the house. Maybe that's something you could go to the ZBA about. Pardon me?
Yeah, it's a code, that's not.
It's not a,
variance.
so that's not fair game in the ZBA?
No, that's a
'Cause
that's a
ZBA
safety, that's public safety, 10 feet is the minimum.
Yeah.
All right, well,
But I think what we can do is just take a closer look around the lot to see if there is anything else that we can offer to make this better for everyone.
Is it possible where the existing permitted wood deck is there, and I don't know the house, so I can't say, is that a location that might work?
It can, it's the entryway to the home.
Okay.
It's the only secondary unit.
No,
we'll give you a continuance and go back to the
I'd
problem.
like to request a continuance.
yeah, no, that's,
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Yeah. And don't forget the shed. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Where am I? 242-1819, 255 Stevens Street.
Okay, so this application comes before you for the construction of an in-ground pool, 36 by 18, a pool shed, and a surrounding patio that is 12 feet wide on the north and east sides and 18 feet wide on the south side. The pool patio is just outside the 50-foot no-build zone. Work is within existing lawn, and the grades on the site slope towards the house. There is an area of yard waste next to wetland flag WSS 7 that will need to be removed. I reviewed the wetland line. I feel comfortable with that. And if there's any questions, we have Matt with Wetland Solutions here this evening as representative.
Joe?
So I'm looking at the plan. Amy, I think you said that the pool patio is just outside the 50, it's actually just inside the 50.
Well,
The
actually,
pool is outside.
We might not have the.
no, I thought I gave you the updated plan, but I'm projecting the most recent plan.
Different plan.
Oh, okay.
It was, and they rotated it, so now we have a plan that's compliant. I mean, it's right at the
don't
50,
have that
but
plan.
it's
Thank you.
just out. Sorry about
Okay.
that. It's right there. It's 51 feet.
And just so it's clear, the debris pile, most of that has been moved outside.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit left to remove, and it will be removed.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Other than, let's see, this is an in-ground pool, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've got a construction access. Sounds like you did your homework there. The material that you excavate for the pool, what happens to that?
It'll go on either side of the house, outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. They're not sure which side they'll put it on at this point. They got to talk with the construction folks. So it'll go on one side, either eastern, the north or south side of the house.
Okay.
But there's plenty of space, and it's relatively flat.
Easy to waste it around the site.
Yes.
Yep, okay, so it
Well,
stays on.
they'll double handle it. They'll move it
Cut it away.
somewhere else.
That's just temporary.
This is just temporary to,
Oh, it's
while they
temporary,
construct
okay.
the pool. Yeah.
Okay. I have no other, the shed is there.
Yeah.
Cartridge filter? What type of filter?
Well, we
Is
would,
proposed.
we would condition it that it had to be a cartridge filter, not
I
a
was gonna
backwash
ask,
system.
yeah, that's fine.
It's in our board of conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no other questions.
So the plan I'm looking at there, that's the correct plan?
Yes.
So am I seeing a 40-foot call-out? Not to the wetland line?
Right, correct.
Oh, okay. It's threw me a curve when I'm looking at it,
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
know. So no, there are no waivers requested here?
Right.
Okay, thank you. All set.
Just the only question I have, Amy, on, that he said he's gonna put the surplus material on the side. On this, he's gonna put the surplus material on the side of of his building, it's out of the 100. So
So-
it's not jurisdictional.
Right. There's an area,
Yeah, I think when you do your pre-construction,
yeah,
that we know where the fill's going, so even though it's out of the buffer, it's not in the buffer.
Right.
So have them show you where they're gonna
So-
put it.
a good thing to point out here, leading to this, is that there really is no grading depicted on this plan. So I'm envisioning that you're going to plop this, and the apron's going to meet existing grade.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
I just,
intent is not to do any grading or any excavating, no cut or fill or anything.
just
like
getting the pool in
Just
and
getting-
build.
Digging a hole and putting
And put- okay.
putting the pool in.
All right. Well, no, I mean in terms of, yeah, you have to excavate to get the pool in, but there's no grading beyond the apron, so it,
Right.
But if you look, the patio is 144. 10 feet away, there's a 146 contour that loops through. There's got to be some proposed contour. This 144 is going to have to come back and tie in someplace out here, and then the 146 would stay up at the... But the grading should start outside the 50, so it shouldn't be a...
Right.
Where are we at?
Where are
so
you?
prohibited
You asked the last
grading
question.
within the 50.
I'm all set.
Okay. Where's is the proposed fence shown on the plan?
I'm sorry,
Is the proposed fence around the pool shown on the plan?
It would be, I guess it isn't labeled.
This is
Oh, yeah,
existing.
existing
Well,
fence.
this is an existing fence,
Yep.
actually.
It's that outer line, square line, that's where the fence will be.
Really? I thought that was 30 feet from the boundary line. marker?
This
You talking
one?
about this thing here?
No.
Around the apron.
Oh, well.
Around the apron.
Oh, around the apron? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that's
So-
where the fence will be. Excuse me.
Okay.
So they, there's, the lawn does not even go up to the 25, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Great, I don't have any other questions. We might ask for a couple wetland signs out there, but I'm good
Oh,
otherwise.
absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with it. I just either conditioned or when we issue, just to add the note for the fence and, just show the proposed contours that, just so whoever goes to build it sees that the intent's to stay outside the 50 foot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would, the only other condition I would consider would be that prior, they're gonna excavate and build the pool, but prior to preparing and pouring the apron to nail that corner, because you don't want the apron extending into the 50 and creating a problem, so you wanna make sure, if you have to skin it down 7 foot
We
6,
can make
whatever,
sure
just make
it's
sure you,
clearly
hit
marked.
it.
Yes.
So that's on our survey.
Prior to pouring the
Prior to
apron.
pouring.
Yeah.
So I was able to draft a decision for this one because it was fairly straightforward. So if you guys wanted to close, you have a draft decision that we could amend. If there's, yeah. Just because it was straightforward.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Sorry. Yeah, do you want to, Tony made a good point. Do you want to ask if there's any?
Oh, yeah,
butter
I'm sorry.
input?
I'm sorry. Any public,
Is there any butter on
any abutters here that has any comments?
Stevens Street?
For 255 Stevens? You don't, okay, sorry about that, thanks.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Matt. Thanks.
All right, next one is an amendment that we're not gonna hear, correct?
Right.
All right, well, what, at some point, to get this off the docket, we're gonna put it on an agenda, like, first? Can we do, depending on that,
a special meeting.
a
I
special
was
meeting?
wondering if the
may-
members eligible to vote on this could,
It may require a special meeting simply because we're gonna be amending
There's
the
a-
order of
just a- it's a
conditions and
lot.
changing a lot of things.
Right,
And it might be something we'd rather have a special meeting for, possibly.
okay. So, that's gonna be your ball, because
right.
So, all right, well,
all right,
yes, thank you.
very good.
Do we need to continue this formally?
Yeah,
I move to continue 242-1692, 1210 Osgood Street.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Next one is a COC for 242-1665, 415 Boxer Street.
okay, so, this is an order that was issued in 2015 for a septic system upgrade and construction of dry well for water softener discharge in the outer reaches of the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW, and was found to be exempt from MESA review. At that time, a shed within the 25 no disturb zone was taken off-site by the previous owner when they sold. The work was completed in December 2015, and based on my site observations and the as-built plan, the site's stable and in compliance, and I'd recommend issuing a full and complete certificate of compliance.
Motion?
Move that we issue certificate of compliance for 242-1665.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. The next one I have a question on, procedural-wise. There's an RDA for a project that was just approved, but we haven't signed on it yet. So is it still official?
We haven't what yet?
We just approved the
Well-
COC.
Right.
Has it been signed? So Is it an official document after we sign it, before we sign it?
The certificate of
Because
compliance.
we're not supposed to, we're not,
It's an RDA for the same address, but it's for, I think, a different project.
Right.
yeah, so it's an open order though. Is it still an open order?
Not anymore. We just closed that old order for
I
the
know,
But
septic
he's saying
system.
it hasn't been signed, I think is his point.
Oh, we haven't even voted on it yet because we
We
need an
did.
We
updated
just,
plan.
we just voted for the COC.
The
COC.
And he's saying until it's signed, can we go ahead and open a new project? Because generally we don't do
Well, I
it
can
when
get
we
the
have an
signature
existing
page
open one, but.
for you right now.
I think it's up to you, the
I mean,
chair,
I
it's kind
got
of a
ready to go.
formality. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well, I'm just asking a question, because I don't want people making
No, you
mistakes.
guys just voted to issue the certificate, and I have the signature page that you'll sign at the end of the meeting.
Yep, no, we get all that.
So,
All right, so we'll do the RDA on 415 Bottom Street.
well, we can't because we don't have an updated plan showing the pool.
That's right.
So we have to continue that.
We didn't sign it.
But I mean, at least we have the certificate of
All right,
compliance
so
out of the
I
way.
move to second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
It's academic, very academic.
RDA for 480 Boxford Street.
Alrighty. So the commission will recall that this property is subject to an order of conditions for a newly constructed single-family house that was formerly known as 500 Boxford Street. It got split into two lots and two houses were built. Now, and there was an ephemeral pool. There is an ephemeral pool in the BBW, so we have a 75-foot no-build zone. The new homeowners are proposing to enclose the eastern side of the house with a fence to provide safe space for children to play. All of the proposed fence, about 100 linear feet, is located outside of the 75-foot no-build zone to the ephemeral pool. And that is the line in green on the plan. I'll just get that. So we were able to find room to keep it compliant. The homeowners would like the commission to consider allowing a gate to be placed at the corner of the building, of the house, to connect to the existing stone wall, just to close off that backyard to kids. And it would be in the 50 no-build zone, but it's, it would be connected to the house and free swinging, basically. And so I just said, float the idea, let's see what they say. So other than that, it's a very straightforward fence project.
Do we know what kind of fence they're proposing?
6-foot PVC.
PVC?
Yep.
Open slotted, or,
We're really something solid with an open slot on the top.
okay, can we pull it up off the ground of 4 or 5 inches?
Yeah.
Because with the ephemeral pools, it's the migration of the critters, they'll be able to get under it easily enough, but, and your dog or your kids certainly
Yeah,
won't.
not a problem.
Okay, I'm all set.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest the same thing, and, we usually don't issue orders in the 50-foot no disturb zone for an ephemeral pool, but in this case, you're connecting onto a stone wall, and they get the house. You're gonna provide the migration path of 6 inches. Is it 6 inches,
I mean, if it's a gate, it's probably just,
Yeah.
we should probably specify,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
It's really just to indicate to our 4-year-old not to run into this, on that side of the house.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a busy street.
if it was a bush, he would go through it.
As
that'd be
4-year-olds
better than
do.
Nothing, but
There's no guarantee you
a
won't come over the fence
solid-
either, but.
I think with that, it's
Or-
6 inches migration path.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm all set.
I'm all set as well.
I'm all set as well.
Remind me, are gates allowed or fences allowed into the no build zone, but not the no disturb zone? Under our bylaw, I've been just trying to find our bylaw, but they changed the website, so it's not as accessible as it used to be.
We condition fences.
Yeah, right up to the 25.
Up to
right,
25.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
of course they're
yeah,
permitted, of course they're
absolutely.
permitted.
Never mind. I'm
Well,
okay with it too.
It is technically, well,
Yes, it's
No.
still allowed.
But there's a stone wall.
It's still allowed.
It's,
yeah, but the
it's still 50
stone
feet
wall's
away.
there
Sure,
protecting
still
it.
allowed.
Yeah, so it's not.
It's all set.
No waiver
Yeah.
required.
But it's ephemeral.
Agreed,
so-
agreed, no waiver required.
No.
Right, I mean, it's within limit of work, it's
It is, though. It's ephemeral.
swinging over
You've got
lawn.
50-foot no disturb to ephemeral pool.
Right, and you can build a fence right up to 50.
Right. But it's inside.
Inside the 50.
It is.
But the stone wall is the true separation, and you guys allowed lawn up to that stone wall.
You guys remember this? I do. We conditioned that stone.
That wall was
We're the ones that
to
set
give
up
us
the
that
stone
physical
wall.
barrier.
Yeah,
So-
and it's there.
That's our wall.
We remember this.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's
This was a
there.
difficult lot.
This was long and drawn out.
We did everything we could to try to help all parties concerned, but we ordered and conditioned that wall. So,
And so there's lawn up to the wall.
yeah, and so that gate is almost irrelevant, except for what they need it for. It's not gonna not gonna bother the critters.
I got a 3.5-year-old grandson, I know he crawled to the bush.
But I'm saying I don't see that gate affecting the critters in any way.
Okay.
So then I have to ask the question if the gate's not, I'm just out of curiosity, would there be any way to run a fence just kind of inside the wall all around the property, or is that?
Because what's happening is our boys are playing soccer in the backyard, and the way that the yard is sloped, the balls keep going over the rock wall. Like no matter what we do, the balls keep ending up over the rock wall. I'm just putting that out there because like originally we did propose 7 and I
They're gonna kick it over the fence.
so
They put up a 10-foot fence, and they're gonna kick the ball
Yeah.
over it, and it's just gonna be more difficult to get it.
No, I know.
And it's gonna be more, and it's more expensive to you.
As long as you
Yeah.
keep the fence up, I'm good, and I just asked it.
Off the
If they could, when they dig the holes.
Yep.
Most good fence guys know, put a top down, dig onto the top, and then backfill off the top, just so you don't end up with a whole bunch of, silt and, because I don't think you really need erosion control if you do that. It's, yeah.
okay.
There's already erosion control in place.
Oh yeah.
Right, that's.
Yeah, I mean, and there's still silt fence all inside.
All right.
It's still on
Yeah,
the,
it's still-
it's gonna be there for the next,
Motion?
Well, just a couple questions.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
Amy, how far from the wetland is the edge of the gate that's gonna go there? 'Cause I'm trying to see, I don't see it measured on
How
far is the wall? That's there.
the wall is where it's supposed to be.
30.
And it's,
So helpful.
So you can see the
Yep.
25, it looks
Yeah.
like it's probably about 10.
10 feet away, yep.
so 35,
Yeah, I'd say that's.
35?
And but you want to try to put a fence on that side of the yard, correct? Is that what you're thinking about?
A fence
Well,
kind
I
of
don't-
inside the wall is impossible, so
Yeah.
just the gate to close off the backyard.
Yeah. Just
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that wall couldn't be, a fence couldn't be kept outside the 50 along there? That
No.
wouldn't be helpful to them? No? Okay. Okay.
We
nothing else?
really, yeah. So, let's see, where am I? Recommending closing the hearing and issuing a negative number 3 determination, requiring a pre-construction meeting with the Conservation Department. Actually, I don't know if we even need that. Well, we might need a pre-construction with the fence people, but the erosion controls are already on site.
Why don't we just keep it simple, and I'll just move your recommendation.
Okay. With 4 inches off the ground for the fence and the gate.
As amended.
6 inches?
I thought he checks at 6.
6? Oh, okay.
Not to exceed.
What's the
Okay.
diameter of a ball?
More than 6. More than 6.
Because then we're gonna defeat our purpose.
All right, so
Aye.
6 inches, okay.
Aye.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. I don't think anybody's gonna be out there with a
We
transom.
spend a lot of work on these little things. We get so much
I know.
mired in the mud on these little things. Gotta go faster here.
So we'll prepare the permit and get it out to you, and once your fence contractor's ready to go, you'll call us and we'll go out and visit with him. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
IEA 50 Duncan Drive.
No, 16
Ferry,
Ferry.
16.
Oh, I'm sorry, 16 Ferry. I'm sorry. 16 Ferry. Sorry, I missed it.
It's all right.
Huh?
It's all right.
So this is, let me just get to the plan here. Okay, so this is RDA for an above-ground pool, a 12 by 24. That's going to be placed where an old round existing pool was. And I don't know if that old round pool was permitted, but it's not there anymore. So it's just sort of the old remnant circle that we have. So basically, it's your typical installation for an above-ground pool, getting the organics off, bringing in pea stone or fine gravel to level things off. Yep. And this pool will employ a cartridge system, filtration system. Our field inspector verified measurements to mean high water bank of Merrimack River, and it's 128 feet. And there's no other wetland resources, so this is outer reaches of the riverfront area. And so it's between, the house is between the pool and the river, in lawn. So that's what we have. And that's all I have. So I'd recommend closing the hearing and issuing a -3 with conditions as I listed.
No questions.
No questions?
No questions.
Motion.
I move the recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Now, 50 Duncan Drive.
50.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get to the, alrighty. All right, so the commission will recall this property came before us through an enforcement order for the installation of concrete around the edges of the house within 25-foot no disturb zone to ephemeral pool and the 50-foot no disturb to ephemeral pool. So we required removal of the concrete, which has been accomplished, and we asked that the applicant come back with a after the fact RDA for the work on the deck boards, which is simply replacement. No other work on the decks are proposed except the deck boards. Bring a detail for how roof runoff is going to be handled, and I'll bring up the detail for that. Other work that's proposed, let's see, let's see. So the existing walkway out from the front of the house, there was some repairs there, concrete pavers and granite cobble edge repairs, and repair to the existing stone wall, retaining wall at the edge of the driveway. And so the concrete was removed, like I said, and they're going to return that to either a grassy area or a landscaped bed. Let me get the cross-section. So we have a cross-section here. Let me just turn it. Okay. So we're connecting the downspout to a 3-inch drain and have it terminate into it like an above-ground catch basin. Well, it's not really a catch basin, but it's sort of an overflow grate, basically, that daylights. And so the commission wanted a detail for what they were going to propose, and this is what they have. Let's see, so a fencing is not proposed under this RDA. It shows it on the plan, but we discussed it last time, and the applicant decided against it. So we'll be clear in the permit that no fencing is allowed. It wasn't proposed, and it won't be allowed, so if you guys don't have any other questions, I was just going to recommend to close the hearing and issue a negative determination with conditions as I listed.
Joe?
No questions.
Yeah, they've done everything we've asked. I don't know about the catch basin detail. I mean, we just don't want erosion going across that 25-foot no disturb zone. And that would be the whole point of putting some kind of a mitigation structure. So that's really my only question. I don't know what it means. I mean, would you put like a level spreader or something that?
Put crushed stone around it.
Yeah.
Something, I don't think, it's only collecting some roof runoff, it's gonna be coming down.
Not
It'll Be a
much.
T, probably hit the T, which will slow it, and then it's gonna rise and come to the surface. I don't think you're gonna get much
I've been out there.
velocity.
It's flat and it's grassy. So what, I don't think it's.
Not a concern.
I don't think so.
All right, I'm good.
Well,
I'm good also.
I just wish we had got to you sooner so you didn't put that concrete walk in for nothing. That's why it doesn't hurt to ask questions. I have no questions.
Me either.
No, I think this will work out better for you, for your water problem in your garage too, so that's, good luck. I'm fine.
All right, we have, okay, so we're gonna close that once we gotta eliminate the enforcement
Yeah, and the
order.
other thing is to lift the enforcement order since they've complied with all of the requirements of the enforcement order.
At first, right?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Bless you. And then the close on this one.
I move that we close and issue a -3 with the recommendations as proposed.
All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. We're all set. Thank you.
I'll issue the permit, and there's some pre-construction stuff that you have to do for erosion control and stuff like that. So we'll just connect when your contractor's ready to begin, and we can go on site together. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Is 1135 Great Pond Road.
Alrighty. Okay, so this RDA is for repair of an existing stone wall along the street frontage by restacking stones where fallen, replace portions of the existing paved driveway that are in disrepair in the same footprint, remove and stump grind existing tree that is interfering with overhead utility lines, remove existing plantings along the back of the wall and replace with new native species. The plant list has been provided. Work is within the 100-foot buffer zone to wetland series I and G. Both of these wetlands were reviewed under a recent ORAD of 2019 under 242-1772. Portions of the work involved with the easterly driveway section are within the 50-foot no build of the wetland, but it is existing driveway that's already there. They're proposing an 8-inch mulch sock along the easterly side of the driveway, and I was thinking that we may want to extend the erosion control through the frontage of Great Pond. But other than that, there's nothing else to. I don't really have any other concerns, so if you guys, we do have representative here this evening, if you have any questions.
Quick question. Before you open it up for questions. Is this watershed?
Yes. And I spoke with Jean Enright, and she would issue a non-significant project waiver, basically.
So they don't have to go in front of
No.
planning? Okay. Joe?
Right.
No questions.
Jack?
Yeah, just a small one. Are there trees being removed from the driveway? It looks like there's X's there.
No, that's for the pavement itself.
That's
so
the pavement,
we have
okay.
to strip the pavement off and repave in those spots where it's spalling.
And only one tree to be removed?
Only one tree.
Okay.
It's literally in the power line, otherwise we would
Yep.
leave it.
Okay. I have no other questions.
No questions.
Nothing. Tony?
No questions.
Motion?
So close the hearing and issue a -3 with pre-construction conditions, waste products to be removed, and post-construction.
I'd like to add the extra.
Yeah, I was just
Oh,
gonna
yes,
say.
and extra thanks.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. You're all set.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, is it the top side of the planting bed on the plan top? Is that what you're talking
It
about?
would be along here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, just on along.
Got it.
Great. All right.
Great, thanks.
Thanks. So it'll be a pre-construction meeting with, okay.
It's the same group that will do it, so
Okay.
they'll be familiar
Okay,
with all
great.
of those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next one is 261 Ray Street.
Let's pull up the plan here. Alrighty. So this project involves removal and expansion of an existing deck and patio. The new patio will consist of stone pavers where right now it's concrete and brick. Patio expansion will remain within the limit of an existing stone wall that surrounds the patio. So if you look on the plan, it's this dashed line is the existing stone wall. So everything is inside the stone wall. Let's see. A hot tub is proposed within the confines of the new deck. Access to the work will be from the driveway located to the northwest side of the house. Project materials will be stockpiled in the driveway or within the limit of the stone wall. And the work is within the buffer zone to BVW and 200-foot riverfront area to Mosquito Brook. Our field inspector verified the wetland line and found it to be accurate. So the existing deck is 13 by 26, and the new deck will be 17, a little over 17 by 28, and located 67 feet from the BVW at its closest point. The existing patio is 45 by 13 roughly, and is located 70 feet from the BVW, but again, the stone wall is still the closest thing to the wetland. So all of this is not getting closer than existing conditions. Let's see, so there was a modular pool observed during our field inspector's site visit. It's sort of like the ones you kind of put together, and it was on top of the existing patio, but that will be removed to redo the patio. Let's see. We did recommend just that flag 9A be moved 4 feet up gradient, but this does not significantly impact the project in any way and doesn't put anything in the 50. So other than that, there is a pile of grass clippings, but it's on the neighbor's property, so we'll have to contact the neighbor. Okay. And if it doesn't work, we'll do it. And homeowners here this evening, if you have any questions for them, but I would recommend closing the hearing and issuing a negative number 3 and 2 with pre-construction requirements and post-construction requirements as I listed.
Jack? Joe, sorry.
No questions.
None. No questions.
I have no questions.
Nothing here?
Tony?
No questions.
Motion?
I move that we close the hearing and issue a negative 3 as recommended.
And
3 and 2.
I move the recommendation.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, all set.
Thank you.
So there'll be pre-construction, install erosion controls, we'll do a pre-construction meeting, so we'll prepare the permit and get it out to you.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
very much.
Thanks. Yep.
All right, next one is 193 Foster Street.
All righty.
I think they were in front of us
Yes, So-
before the baby arrived.
yes, that's exactly right.
So that's what happened. I recall you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this comes as as a result of an enforcement situation where the commission asked for an after-the-fact RDA for the construction of a pergola over an existing patio at 193 Foster. You had asked for the wetlands to be delineated, and we have a plan that shows the wetland delineation and measurements to the wetlands. So this patio is within the 50, but you guys knew that and was comfortable, you were comfortable with permitting under an RDA. And if I could find the plan, it'd be great. All right. No, that's all right. I thought I had it separate. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So Jen Hughes had verified this line. So at its closest point, it's 42.6, but it's been there since, I don't know, 2005, right? So basically, it's just trying to play catch up because in May of 2018, you gave them 3 months to file, but then 2 weeks later, they had the baby. So.
I think we were just so excited you guys didn't say tear it down, so we thought that was it.
I do remember this, and I think I'm fine with it. No questions.
Yeah, I'd like to maintain our consistency with our prior ruling. Issue negative.
I'm all set.
I'd just like to say, just next time, no more after the facts,
Right.
right? This is your get out of jail free card.
That's right.
All right. Thank you. Sean?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
Motion?
Move that we close the hearing and issue a negative 3.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, all set.
Thank you so much.
See you
You
guys.
guys, you'll be happy to hear a colony of snakes has moved in, so if you guys ever need any
Well, make sure you
snakes.
feed 'em.
Yeah.
Next one is 920 Johnson Street.
Alrighty. So this is another pool project. This is an above-ground pool, 16 by 32, with an associated elevated deck around. At its closest point, the proposed pool will be located 69 feet from the BVW, and the deck will be 60 feet from the BVW. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. The proposed pool is shifted as far from the backyard resource areas as possible and located just over 10 feet from the house to comply with zoning setbacks. Or maybe even a little more, actually. No, actually, no. No, you're right. You're about 10.5. Okay. This portion of the rear yard is currently fenced with a 6-foot-high stockade fence, portions of which are in the 50. And the homeowner is proposing to remove and relocate that section of fence to the southern end of the home. Temporary stockpile areas proposed south of the proposed pool, about 70 feet from the edge of BVW. Access to the work area will be made through the southern portion of the property, and mulch sock erosion control is proposed. All disturbed areas will be scarified and seeded. So our field inspector verified the wetland line. The plan shows encroachments into the 25, and those consist of a wooden platform, a couple of raised garden beds with mulch surrounding it, and then fencing. There is a fire pit within the 50. So these are unpermitted encroachments into the 25. And I forewarned the applicant's representative that these would have to be addressed. And usually the commission does not make decisions on projects with violations on site.
You know that. I know you're stuck in a rock and a hard place. And we generally don't approve projects that have outstanding violations.
Nor should you. I can, nor should you. I can shed some light on history out here. It won't take too long. The house was built roughly around 1969, and looking at historic aerials, there used to be an in-ground swimming pool in the backyard here. And the fence is the fence that you see here. However, instead of doing this, it used to come straight across. And what the homeowner did, not understanding anything about the Wetlands Protection Act or any of the regulations, she's learning a lot over the last week or so. What they did was they built a floating wood platform that sits on the ground, which is shown here, a couple of raised garden beds, as Amy pointed out, and then they pushed the fence back very close to the wetland. But I do want to point out it was lawn to the wetland edge based on most of the historic aerials that I was able to see. I sent Amy a little bit of a collage, what I came up with. So I don't think according to the client, she didn't cut down any trees, she didn't cut down any vegetation, she just literally moved the fence, put the garden beds in, and put the wood deck in. She understands that she's more than likely going to have to remove them and put things back to what they were, and she's fully prepared to do that. But I told her not to do anything until we came tonight, and we at least had a chance to talk to the commission. But it would be very, very easy to dismantle everything and put it back to what it was. But I just didn't want the commission to think that there wasn't any activity in the 25, because it was lawn right up to the wetland. It almost looks like somebody dug a pond back there as kind of a decorative feature, and now it's a jurisdictional resource area. But it does have a stream that comes into it, an intermittent stream. But I chased historic aerials back as far as I could, and that wetland was always there. But I think people have been mowing right to the edge of it for a long, long time. So I told her to be prepared to put everything back, but not to do anything until we had a chance to come here.
Okay, thanks. Joe?
Yeah, the willingness to take those out makes this conversation go a little bit easier for me, for sure. I guess I'm kind of hung up on the procedure. So we have an RDA, which is usually a very low-level permit, but So we almost have to address the removal of those items through an enforcement action, almost separate from the RDA. Or can we simply go beyond the typical 3 conditions?
What do we need for conditions? I did have recommendations.
So the project itself is the pool and everything, it's on, it's towards the outskirts of the buffer, it's all in
I don't have
lawn.
any issue with the pool.
Right, it's just all the other stuff. But they did all that work on their own, so they're very capable people, and I know they can clean it up nice, and they're gonna wanna clean it up nice.
So the question is, what does cleaning up nice mean to you, and what does it mean to the applicant?
Order
That's what I
for
was
the
thinking.
cleanup.
I think so.
And then-
I
and
think
then
you should
addressing the new
tape,
construction under the RDA. Let's not confuse the two.
absolutely.
So that's my opinion. We should
But-
issue an
Formality,
email.
it's a procedural question. I mean, they're raised beds. I mean, that's literally
Yeah.
pick
Picking
them up and move
and
them. And honestly, a couple of cases of beer and 15 friends and some rope, you can drag that platform,
Right.
outside the 25.
What do you use the beer for?
Lubrication.
Fuel.
Just asking for a friend. I never
You gotta
used
make
beer.
the fence wet.
But
cases, 15
the
feet,
deck will
one
have
goes
to
to
be
the-
outside the 50, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And the
I
mulch
don't
has
want
to
to get hung
go.
up on a separate enforcement action, because it almost pollutes our ability to issue a negative RDA.
All right, so why don't we
Well,
do-
I think we lump them together. I mean, it's kind of unorthodox, but I think seeing what this is,
Well, then you're talking about a pre-construction condition that's gonna have a lot of verbiage. That's what you're talking about.
well, it would be,
that's my opinion. I mean, there may be others who think that I'm way off
I
off
never
base
object
here.
to keeping things simple. I just want, as long as we can.
We can revise the plan to
Clearly
show
define.
proposed restoration, and put notes on the plan. It's gonna be pretty basic.
That was gonna be my question, is just keeping with the regulations. I think if you were doing work that close to the wetland, it probably wouldn't be an RDA.
no, it would not.
But if you proposed it as, I think there's ecological restoration that we could be kind of liberal with, as that type of project that would exempt you from portions of the act that we could kind of slide
I
it
think
in?
the commission, well, yeah, but that's usually when they're really in the wetland.
25 is typically not covered under an RDA.
that's kind of
And so that's an argument in favor of splitting them up, EO and RDA. But the enforcement order, I think, should include, some kind of a setback. I mean, I understand it's been mowed lawn up to now, all the way up almost to the wetland line. But we typically, when we do something like this, we typically would leave a 10-foot no disturb zone, and then the remainder mowed lawn as, to keep it, to give us some protection, but also keep it fairly simple, or fairly similar in character of what they have now. So, anyway,
That's reasonable.
that's my thoughts.
so you're saying put the fence to the 25?
No,
It would be back here where it was. If you take a straight line from where the fence, this is the existing fence that was there from probably the 80s. If you just carry that line straight to where it intersects, that would put the fence back where it was. And then it's clear from the photos that there was always lawn behind the fence, but, giving up a 10-foot no disturb zone, I think is a good idea. And I think everything can be carefully removed, but we'd probably want to just extend the erosion controls down to that area just as a precaution.
But so if there's an RDA, we couldn't get approved tonight, we'd have to do an enforcement order.
I think you should table the RDA, issue an enforcement order, give a deadline for doing the 25 restoration. And then, I think that's kind of what you guys usually do. You don't go approving projects and an enforcement order at the same time out the door.
So we do the enforcement order and make it date sensitive to the next meeting? put the RDA on the agenda?
Too aggressive.
They'll do whatever the commission tells them to do.
Would that work for us?
We issue an IDA that gives them 4 weeks to bring it into compliance. They come back in 4 weeks, it's in compliance, and we can hear the IDA.
Okay.
The setbacks.
And I guess the one point of clarification I need is, am I revising the RDA plan to show the proposed restoration effort also? Even though it's being done under enforcement order, just so there's a record of it?
I think it's gotta be, I think the plan of record has to show stuff that is removed, I mean, moved to wherever it needs to go. I don't think we can live with that plan on record, because it's not what it's going to be, what it is.
To show what it is.
To show the real-time correction.
And they haven't decided yet, well, they might not have decided yet where they want the raised beds and the deck. They need to decide and show that on the plan for our RDA.
Just note it as relocated per enforcement order number, whatever.
So where is the fence gonna be now? Is it gonna be, I
Right
can't
back
see
here.
from there, but.
Oh, can I bring it up?
No, that's okay. Is it gonna be in the 20, is it gonna be 35 feet or?
Like this.
off
It
off
is in the
wetlands?
25.
So the section that they didn't touch is gonna be the only section that's within the 25.
And does it go right up to wetland flag?
Yeah.
Now, it comes this way,
Right.
where I scribbled it out. They're gonna bring it straight across and connect it.
You got it right here.
So there was a big rectangle in the backyard
Right.
historically, that was the fence. They bumped it out here, so that it would just come right down. And this portion is in the 25, but they didn't touch that. But some of these beds are in there. So there's a section of fence here that's coming out, and then it's just gonna come straight down.
Okay.
So all this will just be removed, this will be removed, and then we'll have a 10-foot, no disturb in this area.
We'd probably wanna monument that somehow.
Yeah, would posts with placards be okay, or it's?
Yeah, it's gonna be
Seems
outside
like
the
a lot
fence.
of work to put a wall back there.
Yeah,
Sure.
no.
Placards are fine.
Yeah, placards are fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're gonna have a fence.
Yeah, if it's outside the fence, then I can.
Does that work for you, Mr. Well?
Okay with a fence being right next to a wetland flag?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that.
Well,
It's right,
it's-
I know it might be pre-existing, but we are doing some new work out here. And, yeah, that seems unnecessary.
Well, you are getting 10 feet in areas that currently are lawn right up to the edge.
That are in violation, right, because they were moved.
Well, no, because it was lawn before.
No, that
Yeah, once it's moved, we're still gonna get 10 feet of no disturb back, that we never had, never previously had.
that's actual mitigation.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable with, and I don't mind being in the minority, of course. But,
No.
yeah, I just don't need, it's just right at the wetland, and here we are reviewing it.
Yeah, why wouldn't they move it? It seems like,
Well, that's been the lawn since the house was built.
okay.
You know, that's their backyard.
Along the tree line out to the 25, so we can maintain that in the future. Down,
Down the bottom of the plan here?
yeah, A8, kind of on the diagonal from there, there's a existing tree line that's.
Yeah, so you'd say, 10 feet all along the back?
Yep, and then when you hit the tree line, bring the placards out to the 25.
Yes.
So that way the tree line remains in the future.
Yes. Yep.
It's-
Yep.
Yep. It's-
Yep.
So it'd be 10 feet in the lawn area.
25 where
When
we
they
can.
hit the tree line,
Oh, that tree line.
we'll maintain that as being posted. So if they ever come back in the future, we've maintained the mature vegetation.
Okay.
So so it would start basically at the back of the fence here, and this would be all the 10-foot that we get back,
Okay.
where it's an existing fence. You can take it.
So, we want to issue an enforcement.
I think we have to issue an enforcement.
All right, so the language of the enforcement order should be the field inspector's report. Does that make sense, or do we need to add? Or we need to add more narrative to it?
So we'll,
To remove
Well, we haven't got to the
raised
brick.
garden beds, and to restore the area beneath it, to remove the wooden platform, both can be relocated, outside the 25, of the 25, to plant the placards in the locations that Tony just explained. And we're relocating just one section of the fence? And what I'm not clear on is what that section is.
Restoring the fence line to the historic location.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a,
And that's very clear on all the aerials,
Yeah.
so we'll make sure it matches our survey.
Is everybody okay with that language?
that would be removing the stack pile tile?
Which
Yeah.
language?
yeah,
Joe just
remove stacked
proposed
wood.
the language to the enforcement order. Can,
I have an issue with the fence, and I'm almost agreeing with you.
I guess there's more discussions.
I think there is
This
more
is
discussion.
all on the RDA end of things, more, well, maybe not, maybe removal of the fence is part of the enforcement order.
Yeah,
It is.
it is.
Yep, yeah.
So we gotta know where we wanna put the fence. And I'm not saying, well, it was lawn before, that don't make it right.
Yep.
Uh,
With a new project.
So the historic location of the fence predates the Wetlands Protection Act. Right. So I think they have every right to keep the fence where it was.
And it's an open fence too, correct? Is that-
Yeah.
Post and rail.
Yeah, well, it's got the, because there was a pool, they had like a wire fence attached to it. But it's, chipmunks and squirrels can get through it, and rabbits, but nothing bigger.
We usually don't concern ourselves with anything bigger than.
And we had this conversation with the clients, so this isn't gonna be a surprise. They're fully prepared to do all
Not
this.
to mix it up, but, the proposed pool will be above ground, so the
Yeah.
fence is not even an issue with the new pool.
That's right. Yep, the only section that they're adding out here, right along the buffer zone edge, is just for privacy. It's just a section of stockade. And that's almost out of the buffer zone.
Old as that.
It's not anything substantial.
All right. That's-
Yep. Yep.
Move it a few feet.
Yeah.
It's not built in, is it?
Well, it's, you can see it there.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
It's on brick.
Post and rail fence, you're saying, has been in there since when?
The lot was developed in '69.
That fence right there has been there since '69? It's in pretty good shape.
Well, no.
It's been maintained.
No, yeah. I mean, there was an in-ground swimming pool in this backyard.
And they get to use a post and rail fence as a barricade around the fence?
Well, I imagine they've replaced it over the years.
This is the Wild West. You can do anything.
This
in
was an
town.
old George Farr lot.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
What is it? Yeah, Johnson's.
But so there is still, sorry, Amy.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there still is a lot of trees. You can see them in the photos, right along the wetland edge, but there's lawn right underneath those trees. They've stopped cutting some of it, just because now they have the new fence there. So I expect that, no disturb zone to really grow in pretty quick.
So from that picture there, it looks like you're gonna go from the barricade fence,
See where Thor's standing with his auger?
yeah,
Right there,
straight across.
straight across. Yep. You can almost see a line in the lawn.
Yeah.
There's a little
Oh.
scuff, yeah, right
These
there.
guys?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And I've got some really good images too that I emailed Amy, I think yesterday, that show the historic photos
They
too.
weren't dated, so it was hard for me
So, Greg, if the fence was there, on that scuff line,
Yep.
are you telling me that the area behind the fence, in the back 40, was maintained as lawn regardless? They mowed behind the fence?
Yeah.
Very ambitious. Okay.
And I could see somebody, I think the prior owners, because these people haven't been there so long. Somebody had put wire around some of the trees, so I imagine there was beavers here at one time, too. I didn't see any recent evidence.
What do we want the enforcement order
I
to
think
say?
we kind of joked around, but I think we've kind of nailed the enforcement order. It's, you know,
Well,
the raised beds in the platform out of the 25, restore the area beneath it to original condition, and to relocate the fence to the historic location. I think that's it.
And establish.
And the monumentation.
The new no disturb zone.
Placards. Don't think there's anything else we,
So I almost think not to confuse it, but I almost think the no disturb zone should become part of the RDA, where that's not technically any type of enforcement. I can show that on the RDA plan as a proposed buffer zone enhancement area, and I can show the placards right on it. It might be cleaner that
I think
way.
those are the RDA because,
Yeah, you're right, it would be cleaner than plan a record.
well, I think it still gets shown in the RDA, but I think, you know, let's say the applicant doesn't move forward with the rest of the project. The enforcement action still stands on its own. So I think the placard should be part of the enforcement action. It's a friendly part of it.
Yeah.
It's almost same result in the end. They're gonna move forward with the RDA.
Right.
So,
Next meeting.
September 8th?
The enforcement order is still for September.
So have we moved the enforcement order?
No, we gotta make it when the deadline's gonna be, right?
4 weeks, right? You intend to come back at the next meeting with an
I do.
IDA, right?
Yeah.
So the enforcement order needs to be completed prior to that date, or, right?
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so what's the date of that meeting? September
September
8th,
8th.
so
Yeah, we'll make sure it's done before then.
on or before.
Okay, so vote on the enforcement order. Motion.
I just want to make it clear that we're not reducing the no disturb zone. It's still 25 feet for all other purposes, except for allowing, mowing. We're getting 10 feet of revegetation and mowing the rest of it with the fence shooting through it. Right. But it's not like we're saying it's not a 25 no disturb zone anymore. It still is. And you're not coming back with structures or anything else for the 25. We're just giving relief for lawn.
So that can be made clear in both the EO
Okay.
and the IDA. That can be, that can be,
Because I don't
that can
want
be a
people
line
walking
item.
away thinking, oh, I got,
I don't want to debate this to death, but
Right, let's not.
what are we really doing? How is any owner of this property gonna know that the fence is sacred, the monuments say so, but I can go an extra 15 feet of mowing, but I can't go 16 feet? How are you gonna know that? Go out and measure with your
The
lawnmower?
monuments are gonna be at the 10-foot line.
Monuments are gonna be the 25, we said.
I mean, first of all, anything within 100.
10?
Anything within 100 feet is gonna come in front of this commission.
Right.
And then we deal with it.
Except for normal maintenance.
Okay, so you're gonna put the, I'm sorry, I missed that. I thought the monuments were gonna go 25, and they're still gonna we're gonna put them at the 10.
But is the proposal for revegetation 10 feet from the wetland line from A1 all the way down to A9? Because if that's the case, that fence that I was talking about before is gonna be in the way.
Well, no, it would just be on the wetland side of the fence. You'd be getting back 10 feet, and you've probably already got 5 feet just because they haven't been maintaining it, like it was historically. But,
Why stop at the fence, though?
well, I think they have every right to put things back to where they were. And I clearly agree that that should be done, but to ask them to do more than that seems unreasonable to me.
Why do we have to give them part of the 25? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, like you said, the fence. Why do we have to give them another 15 feet or whatever?
Because it's been mowed before the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and before you had a bylaw.
Predates the act.
A lot of people have lawns that are technically wetlands that they continue to mow. The mowing of lawns is not subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands
Well,
Protection
the only
Act.
time it becomes subject to jurisdiction is when there's a proposal for new work.
Right. And this new work is
But
very
that-
minor.
But that's traditionally how it happens. You could have a lawn that's been maintained for 75 years. When you come in to put an addition on the house, you now become subject to the correct setbacks.
I did.
Yes, no?
If this platform wasn't here and those raised beds weren't there, if this was lawned up to the fence and the fence was where it historically was, and they came in for an RDA, we would not take back that 25.
Right.
I hate to say it, but I agree. If there was evidence that it was historically moved pre.
We wouldn't take it back.
Just like if the house was there, we wouldn't make them move the house because of that.
So we're getting it, we're getting mitigation
Yeah, I think we are.
in return for eliminating some,
Yeah.
Okay.
And cite
Enforcement
in
action.
the findings.
Yep.
that-
It's
that the
negotiation.
project
What it
predates
is.
predates the act.
Yeah,
If we were
predates.
pushing the envelope with the RDA project, I would fully expect to have to give something back to this commission as mitigation, and that would be the perfect opportunity to give that 25 back. But in this case, it's such a minor project. The project's minor, but the stuff they've done, it's
Okay. All right, so we have, all right, so we have an enforcement. Yeah. So we have a motion. We need a second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then
Move to
continue.
continue the RDA here.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a good night, guys.
We're gonna charge you by the minute from now on, Greg.
Sorry to push your buttons. What are you in the pool business now?
This is the COVID effect.
Okay, that was too long.
I know. I can't go anywhere, so you might as well put a pool. ANRAD 242-1820.
Request to continue
Yeah,
to the
I got it.
September 8th meeting.
Wow. We haven't had many of those tonight.
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next, small project, NACC 280.
Alrighty, 70 French Farm. So this project involves providing support to failing sonotubes under a slab foundation of an existing sunroom. Contractor proposes to drive helical piles in 3 areas under the sunroom, backfilled with existing soil and tamped every 12 inches. The area of excavation, if necessary, would be 2 by 2 by 2. All machines used will have rubber tracks to reduce the impact to customers' properties. Contractor also uses track mats, which are 4 foot by 8 foot square, 3/4 inch thick, heavy-duty plastic mats that minimize impact to the ground. Work is within existing lawn, within a 100-foot buffer zone to a wetland, and 85 feet at its closest point. And really, the 85 feet is really close to it's sort of the conveyance channel for the street runoff that drains into the wetland. I guess it's sort of turned into a wetland, but it's sort of more of the drainage channel. So, let's see. They're asking for approval under Category L. And I suggested pre-construction requirements of installation of straw wattle, erosion controls, and then post-construction to verify stable conditions and remove erosion controls. Let me see if I can get the plan.
digging methods?
Um,
I know it's minor, but I was looking for it.
I think it's in this.
hold on.
It says they give it in this.
Well, they'd use this machine for installing the
Yep.
helical piles. So it's probably, they
Yes.
probably put a little confidence into this thing.
It's a Bobcat with the
Bobcat.
giant drill, for lack of a better term.
Check. Joe, any questions?
No questions.
No.
No question.
No, sir.
No questions?
Just at some point, those houses are gonna have fun.
I move that we consider this to be a small project under the letter L.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
And accordingly, I move that we approve the small project.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
With conditions. Yep.
With conditions, with conditions.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Yeah.
Next one is NACC number 281, 693 Johnson Street.
Alrighty. So, let me just get the plan up here. All right, so this is a small project permit for a septic system upgrade. Oh, okay, he's cutting me off.
We can hear this. I think we should continue it because the Board of Health hasn't reviewed the plan or approved it. So, we don't typically,
They've applied to the Board of Health, but they just haven't opened it and heard it yet?
right, and
Okay.
and it was misfiled by accident. It should have been an RDA. So, it's a small, septic system, small project, doesn't cut it, I don't think. Because there is a grading. There's an issue with it being in the old, they gotta dig up the old septic system to put the new one in. There's more to meet the eye here.
It is 90 feet away, Mr. Chairman,
Right.
and the BVW is across the street from the subject property.
But if you, there's grading up, well, there's grading up, but normally we don't approve anything
That's all the more reason it's an RDA. Everything you just said, but it's not a small project. I mean, you're the small project guru, you wrote it.
This is not an L.
It's not an L, yeah. But it is an RDA.
Well, yeah, so we have the homeowner here, but, so when this came in viewpoint, I knew there was a wetland across the street, so I asked that it be delineated. Norris delineated it. We reviewed the wetland line. We're okay with the wetland line. A majority of the system is out of the buffer. I mean, just a thin sliver. So it is grading that's about 90 feet from the wetland. It is going to be in the footprint of the existing system. Board of Health is still in the midst of reviewing it. They have a third party that reviews all septics for the Board of Health. And so it just literally landed on his desk early this week. So we don't have Board of Health approval yet. So I would see that would stop you guys from approving it absent Board of Health review and approval.
I think regardless of what application they filed, it would prevent us from moving forward. So I think what's being debated now is whether this is a small project or an RDA. Okay. And I just don't see this being a small project. But for all the reasons stated, there is a wetland, it is across the street.
Right.
It's not all that close. It definitely is an RDA, not an NOI, that's for sure.
Right.
But regardless of what it is, we can't do anything until the Board of Health hears it. So I think what they have is time before they get to the Board of Health to revise this application and submit it properly.
Okay.
And that's my opinion.
I agree, that's why I brought it up.
So the homeowner is here. I think he probably wants to speak.
So the entire septic system is beyond the 100-foot buffer zone. So the only thing in question, though, is just some associated grading that has to be done after the installation of that. And so that grading is, 800 square feet in total between foot 90 and 100. And so I just want to understand, I guess, and appreciate the difference between a small project and an RDA. When I think about it, I think the septic, okay, are we here to give approval to put in the septic? But the septic is beyond 100 feet.
Think of it as a small project, what your engineer considers minor grading, we have no control over it. And normally, if there's anything that's not approved by our board, we usually don't, because health can come in and change it. So by changing it, what we're saying might not be what we're approving. So that's why historically, we wait till everybody else is done. And unfortunately, it works. It's good and it's bad, because what happens is the other boards just go, okay, conservation will take care of it. And we end up being heavy. We're trying to fix that. But that's why we do what we do.
Yep, gotcha. So your permission can't be, I mean, understood, if this changes, then the permit or the permission that you're giving here, I mean, I would understand that then that no longer applies, right? Because you're no longer approving. But if this gets approved in the next week, right, we can't say for this purpose here that the approval here is contingent on this plan getting approved. They have to come back again.
Because it was misfiled. It's a small project. I don't think.
I filed it as a small project just based on guidance from Amy.
Well, because I thought that the wetland was, I mean, I still think it's really far away and across the street. But I thought it was probably even a little more further away.
Is it possible this could be outside of the 100 foot at the end of the day, or is it?
I mean, we're talking like 5 feet, I mean.
Because if they kept it out of the 100, then
I
you
don't
have nothing to talk about.
think so. It's gonna have to stay inside that
So the
circular
way we
area.
find out is when we see what the Board of Health does.
Right.
Quick question or thought, have we ever done a small project for a replacement of a septic system? Ever?
I can't say that I remember one.
I do not believe.
I'm more questioning whether it's jurisdictional or not.
Yeah.
That's what I'm questioning.
I agree.
You asked the right question, but I think the context of that question is very important. It's not that because it was a septic system, it's because septic systems almost always have accessory grading beyond the septic system replacement itself, and it's that grading activity that extends out, that makes it not a small project.
So along that same thought, though,
So the code does allow, instead of going 15 feet for the slope breakout, you can put an impervious barrier at 5 feet and start your slope breakout there, which could get you out of our jurisdiction, is what it looks like.
Well, but look at all the earth that's getting moved, and look where the erosion control is. I mean, the erosion control is, I don't know, I mean, how far is that in? I mean, there's gonna be temporary disturbance, more than 5 feet inside of the 100-foot buffer, so.
And that's what Title V requires. At the top of stone, you need to go up 15 feet from the top of stone, and then start your 3-to-1 slope down, which is what it looks like they.
he's done, yeah.
Yes, but if he reduced it by 10 feet, I think his TOA grading is outside the 100-foot buffer zone line, and then he would be outside the jurisdiction of the act. And I think that'd be if getting the work done is more important than getting it filed, I think that'd be a quick change to give to the Board of Health, and then you could just walk away from this.
You mean just moving the grading, so having a steeper slope of the grading by just pushing it back
So
further?
you have to start 15 feet away from the system.
Which is the white, the system is within the white box.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
right?
then 15 feet away from where that edge of stone is, top of stone is,
Mhm.
the code requires that you begin a 3-to-1 slope down to meet existing grade.
Okay.
They also have a provision that an impervious barrier can be put 5 feet out, which is you just put like a 30 mil piece of plastic at the edge of the stone, and then you can start your 3-to-1 right there. So that would suck everything back 10 feet. And
Stay out of my jurisdiction.
yes, and save you a lot of headaches.
Yeah, go back to your engineer and tell them simply, without getting too technical,
Yep.
tell them simply, you need to keep the grading outside of the 100 foot.
Or file an RDA.
Or file an IDA. And he should know how to get, should know to do everything that Tony just said.
And keep in mind, it's not like, it really, I wouldn't expect a speedy turnaround for Board of Health. It's not like they're gonna be faster. I'm like, you got a few weeks, probably 3 weeks with Board of Health,
Yeah.
just to be realistic.
I know. So we've sold this house and, money's in escrow now, waiting for the project to get done. New homeowners are moving in a week or so. So just trying to do our best to move this along. And, now I understand the next meeting is not for another month in front of you guys. So it's just, the process it's been a long process.
It's unfortunate, but you've kind of been dealt a.
But if they, say they did that 5 mil thing that you were talking about, could we still have it under a small project so we have some record under a permit saying this is your limit?
They keep all activity outside the hut.
We have no
jurisdiction. It's not a small project.
That's what we're saying. We're saying if they
Okay.
redesigned, if they
Take it out of our
redesigned the damn
court.
septic.
If designed properly, they don't need to be here.
He doesn't have to come here.
They don't have to be here. It's not designed right.
That's the thing we're trying to get to.
Yeah, no, I understand. I have no idea if it's designed properly or not.
But there are other options that you could do, so you won't even have to be in jurisdiction, which I think is probably the faster track.
That's the fastest track.
Yes.
And that all.
Instead of a 3-to-1 slope, you're gonna have a retaining wall.
No.
No?
You don't have a 3-to-1 slope, you just, instead of
You're
starting
cutting off the
15 feet
breakout. You're cutting
Yeah.
off the breakout. You're still having the slope with no grading, but by putting that
Yeah.
barrier there, you could make that slope a little
Right,
bit.
instead of being 15 feet away from the system when you start, you're starting 5 feet away.
Yeah.
It's,
So
And
pulls everything back 10.
that's all saying that Board of Health isn't gonna move this system around. Because they could.
So that's the other.
Because they
Yeah, I
could.
know that's a wild card.
So-
And just trying to do everything concurrently with you all and Board of Health to try to,
Shop us last.
Yeah, so that's.
I know.
Okay.
Go back to your engineer, you tell them to do that cutoff, keep the grading out. Have them make those changes. When you go to the Board of Health, should be one-stop shopping. And if you get a good outcome there, you can withdraw this application with us.
in an RDA if we had to go down the RDA and I come again, my engineer on September 8th, is that something that gets approved there, or is it a long process?
I would think that an RDA would go through pretty quickly. It's just a matter of the level of work.
Filing deadlines?
And
The plan submittal and the filing deadline, that's what you're up against.
It's really just a matter of filling out a different application.
I would,
Yeah, and that,
if you want to go by Tony's direction, go back to your engineer,
I definitely will.
all right? And if he can get it designed to get us out of the buffer, you won't have to come back here. You just gotta get approved by the health department.
All right.
And if you want to stay the way you are, then you'd have to come before us under an RDA.
Which is paperwork.
Because grading is not a small project of a yard.
Septic systems are not small projects. These guys wrote them.
The grading makes the whole thing jurisdictional as proposed.
It's like,
As
it's like,
proposed.
your limit of excavation
You gotta change the proposal.
is right here,
Yep.
so you're going down at least 5 feet inside the jurisdictional area. And you're not gonna get a sheer wall when you dig that, because you're gonna pull your system out, it's gonna be sloped back, so now your excavation's coming out to say here. So it's not just grading, there's work that's being done, so that, and it's kind of staying consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act for the level of work. It's unfortunately, the line on the plan versus the reality of how it gets constructed are two different.
All right, so how do we do this? We have to deny his small project?
No.
No, we just continue,
you can
it.
continue or withdraw.
Yeah. Continue it, or you
Withdraw
do
without prejudice, or just continue.
We can't do anything for you tonight, so you want a continuance?
He's not gonna come back with a small project anyways.
Yeah, I
Right.
would,
So he should just withdraw it.
So just withdraw your
yeah,
application.
withdraw without prejudice, I think.
Yeah.
And you'll either won't have to come back in
Either
front
I
of
don't
us.
come back or I come back under
Under
RDA.
an RDA.
That's it.
Exactly.
There you go, you got it.
I'm learning a lot here.
Thank you. And
Okay.
there's no extra charge for all the knowledge.
I'm gonna be a septic expert.
All right, so we got a motion to withdraw.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll accept,
And we don't mean to be bureaucratic, just to let you know, it's just, we do need the Board of Health, regardless, even if it
Right.
was a small project, we still could not, our hands are tied until the Board of Health comes back.
Should I not even come back under RDA unless they have, unless I have an approved plan?
Yes, correct. I would say you don't, it would be, you'd be wasting your time if you came back in front of us without an approval from the Board of Health and a defined plan.
Okay,
Sorry.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank-
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Well, it was withdrawn, right? So there's nothing to
Yes.
vote on.
We're accepting the
Oh,
withdrawal.
we got a step to withdraw? Okay.
Okay, we accepted the withdrawal. We'd have moved the acceptance.
Move the acceptance. We move everything.
That's right. When in doubt, move it.
The next one here, Betty's got a headache. NACC 282, 625 Turnpike Street.
Okay, so this is for a fence in the backyard attached to the house. There's my notes. Dimensions are 30 feet off the side of the house, 38 on the other side, and 90-foot stretch along the back. It will have a 6-inch gap at the bottom to allow for wildlife passage. The 90-foot section is going to be a chain link fence, a 5-foot tall chain link fence, and the two sides will be 6-foot tall PVC for privacy. Field inspector confirmed the closest point of the fence is 52 feet, is that correct? Okay, so it's out of the 50-foot no-build zone, and it's entirely within lawn. So the applicant's asking for approval under category H, and we just recommended pre-construction, excavated soils to be taken off-site, and then a post-construction. That's it.
Taylor, is the line flagged right now? Is it flagged?
No, it's not. The wetland line, no.
So we borrowed a flag, there's a flag that creeps over the property line from 633 Turnpike.
I said, why am I looking at this plan and it looks familiar?
Yeah.
It's the neighboring
Yeah.
property.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I get it.
So we had a very good idea of where the edge of
Yeah, we
wetland is
sort
from
of
that.
went off of that.
Well, if we're gonna do a pre-construction and we have to go from a good point, that's all I'm
Yeah, or
concerned.
Yeah.
off the backs of the house too. 'Cause
No, sorry, Joe.
No, that was my only question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why does it look familiar. I'm all set.
I have no more questions.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
No, sir?
No questions.
I move this as an H with the recommendations proposed by our administrator.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Oh, there's a back to the page.
Yes.
Never
Jesus Christ. Can I get an egg McMuffin delivered or something?
Right,
What's your return?
so, all set? All right, the next one is, next one is 1600 Osgood Street. Hey, you can't run away. Bye.
She turns into a pumpkin at 10?
I guess so.
It's well known, once we hit 10 o'clock, it's over.
So the commission will recall recently permitting the sewer pump station on Route 125. They've come back with some plan changes that result in a net reduction of impervious area by 102 square feet, resulting with a smaller generator pad and removal of electrical transformer pad, net reduction in gravel by 101 square feet, net increase of grassy areas by 203 square feet. Driveway entrance was regraded and decreased in slope from 15 to 8%. Stormwater calcs were run, and these changes slightly reduce the rate of volume, reduce rate and volume. majority of the changes are out of the buffer, but there's an overall less impact on the site from this change. And Olivia is with us. She's a project engineer, so if you have any questions.
No questions.
No questions, sir.
No, Mr. Chair?
No questions.
Do you want me to ask you a question?
Yeah, we made you come here for nothing,
I have a
sorry.
question, Do you bill by the hour? Or assignment?
I do, but I don't
yes.
get overtime, so it doesn't really.
I was hoping it was by the hour.
Did you work in the same office as Rob Little?
I'm in Canton, he's in Andover.
All right.
Yep,
No, never mind.
but I work with him.
All right.
Yeah,
Tell him I said hello.
I will do. Well, thank you, that was easy. Have a good night.
So need a motion.
Yep, we gotta vote it first. I move it that we approve the modification for 242-1811.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Good night.
Is 242-1745.
So this is the Market Basket site, and thank you. The commission issued an order for the replacement of the large culvert and installing a new culvert and daylighting section of the stream. The order required that work be done between July 1st and September 1st during low flow periods. Right. So COVID impacted last year and July impacted this year. So we've done a pre-construction meeting. Work has started in earnest and they're making good progress. They have a schedule that takes them to the very end of August. But they want some wiggle room, so they're asking for an extra month. During the site visit, basically they're not going to put this new swale online or the new culvert online until it's completely vegetated and stabilized. And when they're doing the head wall and the new culvert, they're doing sheet piling to divert the water and keep the existing culvert online. So that existing culvert's going to keep functioning as it does right now until the new system is ready for water. So, you know, I think the request for an extra month makes sense. I don't think that there's going to be much of a chance for negative impact to take it beyond September 1st, especially since we're keeping the existing culvert functioning. So Peter Ellison with TEC is with us this evening if you have questions for him.
Yeah. The existing culvert is 48-inch corrugated metal pipe. And your intention is to leave that in the ground in the permanent sense?
Correct, yeah.
When
It'll
it
be
rots and
cut and
collapses?
cut and capped on either end, correct.
So when it rots and collapses, what do we do with that embankment? I mean, once you take the water out of it, that spring line's just gonna corrode and rot away and cave in.
It's not gonna be filled.
It's not proposed to be filled, no.
It's gotta be filled. You can't leave a 40-inch cavern.
Capped.
Won't be a car roller, it'll be lawn, but I wouldn't wanna be mowing it.
Yeah,
The thing will collapse. That pipe has gotta come out, and so, let's take this in order. Using it as a diversion bypass absolutely makes sense. But having done that, you've now graded your channel, you've vegetated, you've got it to take hold, it's established. And now you come in and rip the culvert out, or do something to fill it with flow fill or something. You've just disturbed the area you've just stabilized. So sequentially, it doesn't make any sense. That's all I have.
They're already moving a lot of dirt out there now. I don't think they'll have any trouble, but I have no problem giving them an extra month. So I'm of a mind to grant the extension.
I have no objection to an extension.
No questions here, sir?
Yeah, other than the pipe, which I don't think is the matter for this, I have no question for the extension.
And I have no issue with the extension, it's just
Yeah,
sequencing. It's the sequencing and, you know, how do you rip that pipe out when you're done?
So you think it should be ripped out, even though that's not the proposal?
Could you fill it with dirt?
Well, you can fill it with dirt, we have flowable fill. But that's not a cheap, 48 inch, that's not a cheap undertaking.
But
That's a long stretch. Cut and capped on two ends.
Right, but capping it's not gonna stop it from corroding. But if it's cut and capped, you could probably inject it with flow fill and make it work, but it's,
A lot of flow fill.
That's, yeah, it's a long stretch.
yeah, 4.
Is that addressed in the order?
12 cubic feet times,
No,
This is not
I
addressed?
don't even think it was discussed in the hearing. What it,
So that sounds like a modification.
mhm.
If they did what we are proposing they're doing, it would certainly be a modification. Or wouldn't it be?
Well, it's.
If it wasn't
this is
discussed
why I'm asking if
before,
it's-
and
if-
now we have this in front of us and we see an issue, isn't that something we can, if you think
This
it
is-
should be addressed? can we
This-
address it?
The discussion of this pipe is not part of the order of conditions, correct? Correct. Now it is. Yes or no? I mean,
Abandoning the pipe wasn't part of the original order? I think it was. Was abandoning the existing pipe part of the original order?
Taking it out of use, yes.
I don't remember.
Cutting and capping each end, yes.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So that's
it.
already part of the
That's
order.
it.
Yeah, so they're compliant.
Yeah, but it
So
can
it's-
still, no, yeah, but it can still collapse.
Yeah.
It will collapse.
Well, I don't remember discussing
But
it
that's
during
not,
the hearing.
it's not on the table. That pipe's not on the table then. Procedurally, what's in front of us is an extension. And the discussion of the pipe is in the order. And there's no proposal to change.
If we missed it, if it's not in the order, though it's a valid issue now, it wasn't then, it was then, we just didn't, consider it. It will collapse some point, we'll deal with it when it happens.
I think liability-wise, it's out there, so if anyone gets hurt in the future, it's public record, so, I mean, it's.
No, understood, but I'm just saying, right now, today,
Yeah,
what's
but
it,
we
what's it,
can't-
I don't think we
can't make.
it's not fair game.
Not unless the wool was pulled over our eyes, and it doesn't
And
sound
I
like
don't think it was.
No,
I
I
don't think,
don't
I
think
don't think it
that
was at
was
all. I don't think
intentional.
that's the case. I think we missed that discussion. We missed it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly go back to the
So you
owners
should- you should
and
do
discuss
due diligence
this.
Now, go
Yeah.
back and say, listen, this came up,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we should think about it.
Sure.
I
It was
mean,
an oversight on both parties.
yeah, it's an oversight, no
Yep.
foul at this point, and then just talk about correcting it.
Yeah, I think we'd be very receptive.
I think we would be, I agree, I think we would be.
Sure.
In the meantime, the extra month makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But the extension, so,
All right,
so moved.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you. Enforcement orders. Did you say the Raleigh Town one was continuing?
It happens. Every now and then we swing and miss. You know what, you're in good company here. I don't even remember that.
268 Raleigh Tavern continued to September 8th, enforcement order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous.
I abstain.
And one abstain. All right, next one is 40 Flagship Drive.
Okay. Let me dig out the.
Go on. You saw Flagship Drive, right?
I didn't, not personally. I know, I mean, I saw it.
Trying to find my
All right.
flagship drive stuff.
That's probably the worst
I'm
site
gonna-
I've ever seen.
I'm gonna pull up the approved plan that the planning board approved, just to have something to look at.
Aye.
Get out of here. All right, so since the last meeting, the applicant did bolster areas of erosion control. Some areas might need a little more than others. Al and I met on site this past Monday. We received a memo from Meridian Engineering that lists immediate actions to stabilize the site and start getting the sediment pond back to capacity. We have a couple pieces of correspondence from our town engineer about a couple of weeks ago, site contractor was pumping the water from the sediment basin into the sanitary sewer system, which was stopped, and it hasn't, DPW put the applicant on notice about that. Commission required that a notice of intent be filed by this date. Norris Environmental is working on the NOI. They have not been able to get into the wetland because it's currently still full of water, and they can't assess the impacts until it drains out. So they haven't been able to submit the NOI, but they do understand that it does cover the site. So it's the wetland impacts and the site. Let's see. So there's a list of immediate actions in the Meridian memo that I shared with you. John Borghese did review those and provided comments. I just don't know where I have too many files here. And I gave you that. I shared that with everyone. They don't object to pumping filtered water into the catch basins, but states that the third-party consultant or monitor needs to observe the activity to confirm that the filtering is working properly during the pumping process. Contractors should be prepared for future emergencies that may arise with experiencing the rain events that we've had. One recommendation is that the contractor have available access to frac tanks for emergency pumping into frac tanks. Description of the activities did not include a timeline, so he's not sure how long these actions will take. Keeping in mind that there are significant slopes that are and continue to be exposed to the elements, the stabilization of all exposed areas, but especially the side slopes, should be a priority, and if necessary, temporarily stabilized with final loam and hydroseed. Erosion control blankets should be used. He has concerns about adequately securing the site for safety issues. And then they have some outstanding bond issues and cleanup of the sanitary sewer pump station. So we have David Kelly with Meridian Engineering with us, and Bill Linsky, who is the project owner and contractor.
Well, we sat here 2 months ago, month and a half ago, thereabouts when they first came in. And we sat and we listened. I thought we had a very healthy conversation. We understood the complexities of the site. I think we were somewhat sympathetic to what he was dealing with, given the rain. I think in my opinion, I gave some great faith in this thing moving forward in a positive direction. And I don't see that that's happened. What I've seen is, minor progress towards trying to mitigate. I've seen, the more notable activities of trying to deal with dewatering the pond at the bottom was an illegal activity, pumping directly to a public sewer served by a pump station, which is destructive and dangerous, not outright a federal violation. So I'm pissed off to hear about that. then to learn that there are issues with checks being written and not being good for the paper that they're written on, it makes me extremely embarrassed to think that we showed good faith at that last meeting. And I'm really reluctant to move forward, so I don't know what to believe, other than for me to express the lack of confidence of this thing being resolved. So, that on the table, you guys can take it.
Jack?
Yeah, I mean, looking through this, Joe's right, some mistakes were made, but, our part is to move forward in a way that protects the waters of North Andover. And going through your plan, it makes logical sense, but it seems like it hinges on the 1 micron filter. It seems like cleaning up that water initially is sets you up to do everything else. Have the proper outlet structures and manholes and seeding of sides of slopes and all that business, which all makes sense. I want to ask you about that 1 micron filter. Have you guys done this before? Have you tested it? Is the water actually going to flow through at a reasonable rate for you to clean the water? That's a lot of water to clean up all that water in a reasonable amount of time. That's my question to you. So
the vendor's been out and taken samples of the water, and it wouldn't work with a 5 micron. He tried a 1 micron, and he was getting it to clear. He has availability to test that at his facility.
I'm sure it clarifies it.
Yeah.
But I've dealt with filters in the past, not necessarily on wastewater or groundwater or what you guys are dealing with, but I know that oftentimes you'll put some water through a filter, and that filter clogs up in 5 minutes.
There are pressure gauges, so that way you can monitor.
I know. That's how you know that they clog up in 5 minutes. That's why I'm questioning that part of it, because it seems like your entire plan hinges on that 1 micron filter and having it work in a commercially feasible way. I would tread very carefully with your supplier and make sure that they do some pilot plant testing or some semi-work scale testing, so that you know that when you want to apply it on an industrial scale, it's actually going to work how you expect it to work. If this filter clogs up every 10 minutes and you've only gotten 100 gallons through it, you're not going to like the result. You're going to have guys there around the clock, and you're not going to get anywhere. So I don't know what you've done, and you guys, it seems like this thing is still, developing, but my major concern is that that's going to happen, and it's going to cause a delay. And if we get more rain, as we probably will, that's more water. That's more, highly turbid water that's going to make it out into our stormwater management systems, and continue our pollution, our pattern of pollution here. So that's really my only point, but I think it's a very important one, and I would ask you not to take it lightly.
Hi, guys. So Amy and I were out at the site the other day, and I was talking to David, the engineer. I made it very clear that I'm not an engineer, so this project is clearly over my head, which is why I wanted to come to this table. But what is striking to me as a layman is the amount of water in the detention basin at the bottom of the hill, which is where the micron filter is proposed to be installed to filter and then release the water out into the off-site. My concerns as a non-engineer is this pond big enough to handle what's happening to it, because the water is close to the top. It's not settling out. It's not draining out. The filter that's proposed, as Jack points out in his comments, is likely going to be a very slow process. It's not going to be pumped, it's going to be gravity, the water's going to be gravity fed through the filter. You're going to pump through it now? Because when we spoke the other day, that we talked about it, you told me it was going to be gravity fed.
No, it's pumped through the filter.
All right, but you remember our comment? All right, so if you're going to...
It needs to be pumped through a filter.
Okay, all right, I misunderstood. Again, that's why I wanted it to come to this table. My concerns, and without beating this thing up, is this detention basin that you see on the bottom of the hill adequate? Is the filter and the discharge point adequate? Because they're detaining water at the top of the hill to prevent it from going down and filling the basin at the bottom of the hill. And part of their proposal is to start to lumen seed and pave the driveway. I'll let them tell you what their proposal is. That's what I took from it. So my opinion is that needs to be reviewed to see if it's adequate, if it's correct. And a competent environmental monitor needs to be on site full-time during the pumping process to monitor the filter. And when I say competent, nobody should have to wonder what that means. So I guess that's where I'm at with this. The site's wide open. The entire site's unstable. And I know that they want to stable it as much as we do. I know that they didn't destabilize it to be destructive. I understand how this thing happens, but it's all wide open. There was no phasing. There was no phasing in the process. It's an entirely wide open site, so that's all I have.
Amy, now, this detention pond is jurisdictional now?
The whole site's jurisdictional now.
Whole site now
because
is
it
jurisdictional?
resulted.
Gene was at the site with us. Gene Enright.
Gene Enright.
Gene Enright was at the visit with us, and she confirmed that this is a jurisdictional site to the Concom. She confirmed that the planning board had issued a permit. I believe you guys said you had a NIPTES permit. But in spite of all that now, as a result of the flow, this is now jurisdictional to the commission, so yes.
So, all right, so my first, how come we didn't put a frac tank and get this water out of here?
So that was
A
discussed.
frac tank, how come we didn't get it, brought them in
From when
to get this
snacks
water
are
out of
asked,
here?
Because it's not gonna settle out in a frac.
It's not settling out.
Correct. So the frac wouldn't have done anything. You have containment with the pond.
And it is a suspended salt, but it's so fine,
So
you don't
they-
have residency time enough for it to settle out.
These are Hinckley soils, Lou. And our experience with the Hinckley soils on the North Andover State site 30 years ago, they're almost impossible to settle out. They have to be filtered out. They're not going to settle. It's all about filtration, at best, I think.
Stabilization. Get them covered first, and then, but
I agree.
It's a problem when you're trying to construct something. It's hard to keep it covered while you're moving it around. It's,
Based on what I've seen, and I mean, it's an awful, those pictures that I saw were like, I mean, I've been on a commission for 16 years, and I've been in the construction industry for 50. The place was a disaster. We've got to get the water removed. Going into the town drainage system, despite a microfill, the Maricon filter, I don't think is the answer. I think the water should be moved and trucked away. Pump it dry, and then it has to be designed that it functions like it's supposed to be. You're saying that the water's being detained up top, and it's still full.
That was Al's point.
But that was-
The basin's
That
not-
speaks,
So it's
that
not
speaks to
functioning.
the issue of the concern of the type of fines that are in here. It's those fines that have plastered off and sealed off the bottom of the soils.
The outlet pipe hasn't been constructed.
Right, I was gonna say, so the pump, the stormwater management system for this has been designed, it has been approved by North Andover's third-party review engineer. The reason that there's standing water in this is the outlet control structure has not been installed. This was designed to be a wet basin to have standing water at all times. So without that outlet structure, we can't keep the water level down. In order to put the outlet structure in, we have to pump the basin dry because we can't install it right now with all that silt in it, because then that silt will just go right to the system. So that's why the process of pumping this and dropping in that outlet structure is key, so that we can stabilize the basin, cover up those Hinkley soils, and prevent this sediment from getting into the basin again.
And then by stabilizing
It's not clear
everything.
to me, and I need to hear this. So up gradient from this pond, what's the site condition now? Has it been paved? Do we have any,
No, it's,
do we, all the rock, everything we're talking about to try to control it, and it hasn't been done yet?
there was some check
So
dams on the
even if you
driveway.
do everything there, get this pumped down, if you truck it away, whatever, you get it dry, and you get that outlet control structure in, the very next storm, big one, not, maybe even not a big one, all the disturbed area up top is just gonna run right down, right into this pond, and do it all over again.
So the intent on anything coming from the upper shelf down to where the roadway is now, the roadway has been compacted, and the intent is to have it go downhill into the catch basins that are already installed, then into the basin, so that it will travel over.
Isn't it just gonna be bringing the silt with it?
No, because we're gonna loam and seed and hydroseed and put blankets down
I heard
onto
that 2 months
slopes.
ago, a month and a half ago. That's exactly what they said they were gonna do the last time they were here. But it still hasn't happened. So for,
I think that a lot of the issue, the damage was a lot worse because it all went down to someone's driveway, and it looks like, I was told there was a silt sack in the catch basins, but I'm guessing you could see the ring of silt. My guess is that they went and said, hey, there's 3 feet of standing water in my parking lot here, and then it all, so it's one of the tougher situations I've seen. It's a tough site, and I think that we had a comedy of errors that brought us to this point. I'm very afraid of the 1 micron filter. I'm looking at the Rain for Rent. Rain for Rent's a reputable company. So they gave us a cut sheet from them. If they had someone out on site and they say it's going to work, I've used Rain for Rent before. I think they know what they're doing. I mean, they're usually out there for major disasters, kind of similar to this. But the filter bags, there's 4 filter bags that are 7-inch by 30-inch, and just knowing the amount of sediment, I'm just leery as to how quick those bags fill up. I'm not too familiar with it, but you start looking at the volume in the bags versus the volume of water you have to move. How often are you changing the bags? And and I'm not qualified to.
You won't know until you start pumping. It could be every
All right,
half
you know,
hour,
I would just kind of bring that up
Yeah.
to Rain for Rent and just.
I mean, we can put 2 in.
Yeah, it said you can go up to
sequence.
4 bags, you know,
No,
but.
I mean 2.
Oh, 2 of those.
Units.
Yeah, no, I
And
mean.
I think we have 2 of them up on another project.
All right, no, I just means and methods,
But it's not
I think
gonna
you get
settle
a
out just
long,
sitting there.
I think you get a long battle against, ahead of you, that's, yeah.
I like Lou's idea. Pump it and truck it out. Just truck it out of there. Don't send it down any stormwater.
Are there companies that do that, though?
Yeah, these companies take water away.
Full of sediment? Full of sediment? I mean, Courier will take your water for you and drop it off in your swimming pool, but not.
Well, I'm sure there's always a job for somebody.
Yeah, I know, that's,
Everybody. There always is.
This isn't gonna drain fast enough
Oh, no.
through the filters. See, that's the problem.
That's my
Time is
fear.
of the essence here. We got a big storm coming Saturday, and that thing isn't dropping, and it's gonna overtop on Saturday.
Could you? Yeah, I'm just, I wish I had an easy solution for you.
Since it overtopped the first time, and the side of the pond blew in, it hasn't
How
impacted
many
anything
gallons
since.
are estimated in there?
Yeah, the 100-year storm capacity is something like 60,000 cubic feet.
So six truckloads of
But
water.
they have to evacuate that pond to be able to fix it.
Correct.
You have to evacuate.
That is step 1.
It has to be done.
60,000 gallons.
There's no question.
Times 7.5. So you're almost at 500,000 gallons.
So, guy,
That's-
our biggest issue here is to make that pond function, they've got to evacuate it out and clean it.
Yes.
So how do they do that? because I don't know, I mean, I'm just saying, I could be, I hope I'm wrong, I want to be wrong, but I don't see the filter doing it.
I just think it's gonna be inefficient. I mean, the filter may clean it, I just think it's gonna be,
100
but,
years.
yeah.
How many gallons per hour can you get out
Well,
of
it's
there?
it's a 400 gallon per minute rating for what it can push through it.
400 gallons per minute?
In the,
On the pump.
Until,
no,
until,
on the filter.
until
the
you have to
filter
change it,
setup.
until you have to change it, Tony.
Right, so if it only runs a minute, it doesn't do you much.
It's not gonna be worth shit if
Right.
it plugs up.
Right, no, that's kind of the, but, I mean, if, like I said, I've used rain for rent in some bad disasters, like sewer disasters and stuff like that, to pump things around. If they're saying that there's a potential for it working, I mean, right now, I'd rather see them try it than not, versus everything else that's on the table.
And then, per the engineer's comment, you wanted to have the third-party review person out there observing this to make sure if it's functioning. Rain for rent will be out there as well, so there's plenty of people with eyes on it.
So who's gonna be the monitor that's out there? Who's gonna
be checking the filters?
On our behalf?
Well, they're checking the filters, they're their filters, but what I'm saying is, I think, John Borghese, I think, recommends, and I agree, that there should be a monitor out there. Where did I see it?
Tony, you've mentioned rain for rent a couple times. Is that who they're using, or is that, for example?
Well, that's the cut sheet that they provided, was a rain for rent cut sheet. And their memo says, the Meridian memo says, per,
Third-party consultant needs to be observed the activity to confirm the
what is
filter
it,
is working.
see attached filter detail, and it's got a,
Up on the screen.
there you go.
Okay.
And that's, so there's 4 bag filters in there, but I think if you scroll down, it gives you it's, what is it? Each bag filter chamber holds one 7-inch by 30-inch double-stitch filter bag. So you get 4 of them, but.
My thing is that if this whole site is jurisdictional, then it should have instituted a stormwater management plan for this whole site.
Well, I think we've requested.
There is one. We have one?
They're preparing an NOI. They're preparing an NOI for the site.
Okay.
Right now, should have the
Oh, that's right, we gotta
plans,
wait
we'll have
for
the
this
stormwater
to
report.
drain.
But this has to be addressed immediately while they're preparing the NOI.
Right.
And Mr. Borghese recommends a third-party monitor observe the activity to confirm the filtering is working properly.
And he's extending that because they're pumping into our municipal drain.
So that's, I think that should be job 1 here.
Well, meaning if one of the bags break and it just keeps
Stop
pumping.
pumping.
That's
Yeah.
my other question is, how are we disposing of the material in the bags? Are we just gonna dump it on site, or are we gonna
Solid waste.
truck it off? Yeah, no, that's,
Because it's just gonna go right back in the wall.
right, but I think we need to make sure that that's clear, that, empty the bags out into a waiting dump truck and just get rid of it, or however they handle it, I mean, although, how much, does a vac truck hold?
Well, can it be stored on site? Can it be stockpiled?
I'm wondering if you might be able to get a vacuum excavator and suck whatever's settled for silt out of the bottom to start cleaning the water up.
All of the pond's clay. It's not silted up, it's built into the clay.
That's the parent material, it's clay?
Yeah.
So there's no silt.
Yeah, it's not, that doesn't drain.
All right.
It evaporates, that's about it.
Parent materials, clay pit hill. It is, same stuff.
It never dries, when it does dry.
I mean, it turns like a bluish shade when you get to the bottom.
Does it? The other thing too is getting as much vegetation as you can out there, or blankets, or, cover the slopes. I talked to someone on the hydro seed. I wouldn't just spray grass seed. I'd get something with like a tackifier in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, get a pretty hardy spec on
I
it.
mean, there's slope mixes and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's.
For that application.
Rip wrap on the end.
In some areas, they have riprap.
I did
Well, there's
see
a
some
wall
pictures.
on the entrance too. The wall in? I can't remember.
I hope you need to pump the basin to do the wall. So it
on
all
the-
just
on the uphill
spirals
slope?
on the downhill side of the road, right there.
All right, but on the other side.
So you've got, so that PDMH6 has to go in, because it's right at the base of the wall. that crossing needs to be completed going across the road. And then that riprap can go in on the other side of the road, the wall can go in. And then all that stuff up in the flat part can kind of be done later.
So when this pond overflows, an outlet structure is installed, it overflows.
It doesn't really overflow, it controls the volume and slowly releases water.
It
Has different orifices in it.
pipe.
Correct.
So the water that is released, is it gonna be the same color as we just saw?
No, because everything should be stabilized, so it's not carrying the.
It's gonna be
solids with it.
planted and seeded
Correct.
and, okay.
So everything will have to get burned off and contained up top while it's growing. It's,
Just a question for your rain for rent guys.
Sure.
Where this material is the suspended solids in the water, it's presumably very fine, which is why it's not settling out. Do they have any applications that use diatomaceous earth? I mean, you can use a small amount, but it adds an awful lot of area to your filtration operation, especially for a very fine material. So that's a question to ask them.
I trust what he recommends. I mean,
Yep.
they're
Well, if it
experts
doesn't
in this,
work, that
so-
might be something you could
Yeah.
recommend to them. Because it just,
Add any sort of chemical flocculant clarifier.
Yeah,
All right.
thought of that first.
It's,
It didn't work, you said?
Wouldn't work.
bentonite clay, bentonite, did you use any of that?
Flock blocks, very slow flow.
That's
They'll
another
knock it down.
option.
They'll knock it down. You have to put a whole battery of them back in a plastic sluice.
I was thinking more like PAC, like polyallyl chloride, like they use in a water treatment plant, because the stuff you get out of there is similar for the fines, and it turns into like almost a jelly when you're done with it.
Yeah.
It's
So you're looking, you're not pumping against that. You really kind of just want relatively slow flows to run past it
Right,
and
so
pull
you're-
the particles out of it.
yeah, and then you'd have to pull the material off the bottom and then keep going. But I mean, I think the filter might be the only option. It's just, is it the right one? And I don't know enough about filtering stormwater to tell you it is or it isn't. I mean, but compared to all our other options on the table, it's
Mine too.
So there's an action list here proposed by the applicants. And there's DPW's response to the action list. So I guess we have to give them some direction right now. Either say yes to the action list or modify it, or...
I think the timeline is key. I think we can move on the action list and require a timeline be submitted to, and I understand weather is an issue, it has been all summer.
But to start stabilization now is
Yeah,
probably
but
a
I-
good time of year.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they're calling for that. Yeah.
And that's kind of the other thing with the timeframe. We need to make sure we get everything planted now while it's still warm, so that it takes, so that in the spring, we have a nice stabilized, like fully vegetated, stabilized site.
like frost blankets, if you don't put erosion control blankets down, if you can get pretty huge frost blankets on the exposed slopes, at least, you're still gonna get water coming off of it.
The slopes didn't really give out except where the water was running down in two spots and it just kind of collected and created like a little river.
Some rilling and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, going up the road.
That's where it's picking up the fines.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if
The
you
solid stuff's staying behind, but all the smaller particles, that's where the rills, they're running down
Yeah,
into the
if
water
you-
column.
If you get something over that,
We blocked it off with a berm, that's all.
all right,
That's the whole upper terrace, call
Yep.
it, is
it's
blocked
bermed off now, okay.
And then that's why we wanted to pump the pond, so we can build the walls, so we can pave the road. So now any runoff that lands on site is gonna go onto the pavement, down to the catch basins, go through the
then-
treatment, and then get into the pond.
So do we wanna just accept and approve the action list, or do we want to make modifications?
I would make the modifications that the city engineer, or the town engineers requested. You know, the
monitor.
The monitor.
So the monitor is important.
Yes. And do we have a list of erosion control monitors that we use?
So what we do instead is, well, we used to have a list, but.
A list,
Yeah, I mean,
a
just,
subset of the list that we have out there.
I think that would be a good idea.
yeah, just,
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
so you're gonna provide that to them?
Yeah.
and if you can get someone, you know, just so it's not a back and forth as to who it is, just, you know, you hand them four.
I'm gonna
five, yeah.
hand them
Yeah,
what we would question.
yes.
Most of this stuff should be done before the NOI is done. You know, paving and fencing and guardrails and all that stuff.
I mean,
I know the
some of
NOI
it's site
can-
work, so are we okay with just letting them? I mean, I know, the sooner, yeah,
The site work.
Okay.
Site work that's gonna
stabilize.
stabilize and cover soil and keep going. I mean, it's,
Well, that's one and two.
Yeah.
What they were getting that
yeah.
resolution to the pond was the main issue.
Well, yeah, the pond is the biggest.
Because once that's out, then we can go to town
Yeah,
in there.
no, that's, but
So let's take John Borgesi's recommendations in order. So we're gonna take a leap of faith and go for the 1 micron filter and see how it works. And can you continue to use that process until it doesn't work? The second piece of that is third-party monitor. We're gonna give them a list, they're gonna choose from, they're gonna negotiate and get that person aboard. That's easy enough to do. The next one's more esoteric, and that is preparing for future emergencies. We don't know what that means, other than if it rains again, how are they gonna be prepared?
Well, he said,
to
he's
re-
saying have a frac tank on site.
Well, that's what he's saying, but we also know that that's not gonna be the answer.
well, if we have a qualified erosion control monitor that's working for us, they may have suggestions.
I mean, with the frac tank, it was brought up in an email from Amy, and then it was discussed, and it was determined it wasn't a good option. I did not just bring it in, it was talked about.
I remember the conversation. I think, you know, we talked about that other project and experience. The frac tank's not gonna give it enough time to.
That's what I'm saying, it's esoteric, it's a real issue. So what is it, are they doing to prepare for the next event?
So we've done it, I mean, we've gone in, we've created a berm up top, we've blocked the water from being able to travel across the site and come down over that hill by the roadway.
We have check dams?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We put stone dams in,
Check
we
dams
reinforce all the
probably
erosion
right.
controls at the bottom.
You could beef up the check dams.
Yeah.
So then, having done all of that, then the question becomes then, so what prevents the pond from overtopping again in the future? That would be, I guess the thing is to pump enough down to give it enough freeboard to handle the next storm, to handle the next storm. That's how you prepare for the future storm.
Right, exactly.
The filter on site, so if the future storm comes in and it's silty, you can.
Second recommendation is the timeline that.
My intent is it's not going away until everything's stabilized and operational up there.
So the next item is timeline. We all agree that that has to be spelled out and, you know, something submitted to us that we can use as a measurable benchmark.
We should have them started right away.
The only thing with the
I think we're formulating a guidance for exactly what they're gonna do to the next meeting.
We don't know how fast the water's gonna pump, so we can't gauge when we can put the outlet control in.
So we could,
I can tell you we can start doing all those activities and how long it would take, but I don't know when I can get into the
Put an
pond.
optimistic timeline in place and then be prepared to explain why it slipped. It very well could be severe storm event came in, but we need to start somewhere.
How about we take a different approach? Take Meridian, the Meridian list, the 12 items. Do number 1, don't do 2, 3, 4, and 5 until.
You need to do 2. As soon as that pond's dry, I think you need to get that connection in.
But you haven't, you have to complete number 1 before you do number 2.
Okay, I thought you said, I thought it was gonna be do number 1, then wait for us
You don't want to
to
pump that
say.
coffee down into our stormwater management system.
No, I got you.
So
All right.
you have to protect.
Well, that's
So this is
watering,
the
I could be
time-
building the
this is time
slopes
sequence, but not
and stabilizing.
All right,
the
Put some
slopes.
dates on it.
One at a time. What?
While that's pumping down, I could be stabilizing the slopes on the roadway coming up.
Right, but.
So I mean, that doesn't really flow in sequence of the work.
Well, if you're pumping clarified water down there, then do it.
Okay.
But I'm not convinced you're gonna be able to do that right away. I think it's gonna take a little bit of a learning curve.
I don't think.
Okay, okay, so maybe you get 1,000 gallons down in the first week. Okay, that can go down the system, but you're not really solving the problem. That's why I say 2, 3, 4, and 5, you can't make the permanent connections because that coffee water's got to flow right through.
That's absolutely right.
But I think you should continue on with the rest of your list, 6 through 12, get started on that tomorrow and start stabilizing the site and, put your gravel, put your binder coat down and anything that's going to prevent the fines to come down to that bottom basin.
I disagree.
Okay.
I don't think there's, all of this stuff, first of all, they gotta get their NOI. Second of all, I think it should be third-party review.
No.
You don't think
we're
so?
in an emergency situation.
I understand emergency.
So we're gonna make them design the project and do it as they feel. Based on their track record.
Oh, no, this is not gonna relieve that obligation in the end. I mean, this is an emergency action to be
For
undertaken,
the pond.
defensive.
These are all enforcement.
Right, enforcement
actions.
Well, paving is not, installing guardrails is not, ain't gonna help the stormwater.
Yeah, I mean, I think. so
But
once they-
fencing and
then
guardrails is
travel
kind of
paving.
safety, and Borghese even mentioned that.
No, that's.
So any non-wet basin preparation should go forward.
Yeah, so I think you
Right.
have two timelines, the basin related and then non-basin related that can happen concurrently.
Yes, 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 yes.
Basin-related meaning items 1 through 5. And then 6 through 12 being non-basin related, which is site stabilization. So you could probably give us a timeline on that right away. The 1 through 5, it all hinges on number 1, how fast you can filter that water and get that basin dry and repaired. I think, unless I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's in the basin area, yeah. Anything that's in the area for the slopes that have to be done.
I thought you were saying do one and then stop and come back to us. No, oh, no, I got you now, that's,
Yeah.
that was,
So 2 timelines. Well, the second one being kind of a tentative timeline on how, depending on how well the thing filters and you can clear out that basin.
And now that we've gone through meridians, now I think you look at John's to say, what do you want to add to it? And we know we want to add the monitor.
That's a no-brainer.
And then just securing the site. So those are really the 3 things. Yeah, I know.
It's just saying it.
Which is,
It needs to be done.
right, okay. So I think we've covered it. We've covered Borghesi's.
But we have the bond. Do we have the bond
No,
yet?
that's their issue. That's DPW's bond.
That's
That's
DPW, okay.
ongoing.
Yeah,
But,
that's their.
but he put that on the letter as something that should be addressed.
Yeah, but it's their jurisdiction to address.
so you're aware of it, that you have to go pay them.
I'll take care of it.
That's, I think that's, we've covered our responsibility.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay. Can I ask just one question? And I don't mean to drag this on, but the specification for the gravel laydown area is compacted subgrade with 12 inches of gravel with the spec, I forget what it's called. 12-inch gravel, MHD, MI 030 type C, whatever that means. So we've got 12 inches of gravel over the subgrade, which is that crappy soil. Is that 12 inches good enough to keep that soil down? Or if we get really heavy rains, will it suspend through that layer of gravel and cause a problem? I'm just curious.
this is the upper portion?
Yes.
There's no filter fabric in between?
It didn't call for it. Say that?
Will we get surface runoff from that
From the
gravel
gravel
bed if
bed,
it
if it
rains
gets
enough?
enough,
The
that's what
material under the gravel is not gonna come up through the gravel.
It's, you call it grapple, but it's like pack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's packed, then it's not gonna come up.
Okay,
It's,
I just want to make sure, because
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah, no, it's
leery
it's
of
gonna
this
be
soil. Okay, just wanted to ask the question.
It's not like, yeah.
Bank run or sandy.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's,
gonna be,
yeah, it's like multi-pack or,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
All right.
Is there a minimum
Okay, that's
depth, depth that the multi-pack should be? Do you have a minimum,
Oh,
minimum?
12 inches.
12 inches?
12 inches will hold.
So you're gonna have 12 inches of multi-pack, is that what you're saying?
Okay, all right, just had to ask the question.
I believe you.
All right, so we should have a motion to amend the order as discussed to allow for
The action item.
the action items plus Borghesi's recommendations, and I'll give them a list of of monitors that we're comfortable with, and submit a schedule.
Is there a time limit on how long they have to get the monitor in place? Because they want to start pumping right away.
Well, that should be like ASAP.
I mean, I would,
Shall not pump until the monitor's in place.
It's,
That's fine.
Meridian works with, you guys have some wetland scientists that you work with too, right? I mean,
any
That's-
wetland scientist for the monitor, this has to be approved by,
yeah, that's,
Amy, okay?
And all other work is on hold,
List,
right?
we'll go with her list.
Other than these line items that
Okay.
you're talking about, all other construction work is halted, correct?
Right, so we're not gonna, the building can't start, I mean, it's really site stabilization.
but the installation of
happens
pipes
to be
that are,
part-
that are itemized here, I think are still fair game, yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
No, that's, no, I kinda got that when they said you were doing site construction, but you were putting pipes in, I kinda got that was for the drainage.
Should we close this up?
So, you want us to stand by, Lou, or
No, you can vote. I'll just,
you want us to continue with this?
Modify the enforcement order.
yeah, just go on without.
All right, okay. All right, so what's the proposal on the table?
To modify the enforcement order to include the Meridian memorandum as modified by Borghesi's email and discussion.
Okay, so, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I hear a second, motion a second, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is unanimous with one abstention. The chairman abstains.
Tomorrow, we'll have that.
Give me an updated order and,
Third-party peer review list,
no, yep, I understand that,
and
but
then,
kind of something confirming all this.
turning the dam basin. Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys experience any we talked about vandalism you were experiencing out there with respect to some of your structures, please report it. Get it on record right away, so that if you have an abutter that's vandalizing anything you're doing, we want that to stop as much as you.
I mean, like I said to you out there, we can't prove it, but it's pretty obvious when
Well,
they were there and they're
just in
not
case
there
you get
next to
lucky
his
and somebody
fence.
saw him do it, or
Yeah.
you got a picture of him doing it, I encourage you to, don't let it go.
No, I wouldn't have.
All right.
Anyway, I just,
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, two decisions. Osgood Street, Route 125, the Osgood Landing intersection improvements.
Which one we doing first?
Osgood Landing.
2421817.
This is the modification.
What's that?
Is this the modification?
No, this is the order of conditions for the intersection in front of 16 under Osgood.
Oh, geez, remember that? Yeah. 9 o'clock? I tried everything I could tonight, but wiped us out, those little
It was like the address got truncated.
Address?
Applicant, Mac Huxley, HIP, but it has a suite number, but no city of town.
Oh, okay.
City of town.
Oh. Got it.
Is the standard 100 feet on silt sacks? 100 feet from the work, is that what you usually use? Silt sacks in the catch basins?
In existing catch basins
It's
within,
basically anything that's down grading that's gonna be vulnerable.
Yeah, so I usually go 200 feet in the nearest down gradient.
Okay.
Yeah, just because the spacing of catch basins usually.
I like 200 feet.
Yeah. But other than that,
okay.
I
Bond
think on
okay?
flagship, They should do like 1,800 feet down.
yeah, it's no, I mean,
Well, there's I know. 50 grand? Well, that was what we had for the sewer pump station. I don't know if that makes a difference. I mean, we have a retaining wall within a few feet of the wetland with a stone. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I don't know. Okay.
Joe says 50.
Okay.
I'd agree with that.
Not gonna fight it.
Not this time.
It's
Not at 11.
not gonna fight it at 9. As long as somebody has an opinion about it, I'm good. Ready for a motion?
Looking for a motion.
I'll move the order of conditions as drafted.
And amended. with the two-
And amended, as drafted and amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Okay.
The other one is 255 Stevens Street.
255 Stevens, Roger.
Oh, let's see. Something must be, oh, apron must be surveyed at 50-foot. Prior to pour, apron must be surveyed at the corner to the 50-foot no disturb zone, no build zone.
Yep,
All right.
good memory.
Maybe it was
That was
something.
like 7 hours ago.
That's what happens when you can continue a bunch of stuff. And a month goes by.
It was 3.5 hours ago.
What, Tony, could you remind me, when you were talking about grading in this site, that they had to do, that there was a question on it?
Yeah, so if you looked at the plan, he was saying there's no grading, but if you look, there was at least 3 feet of grade across the pool, so he's got to pull the contours back a little bit. So I think grading is not shown. I think he was going to submit
Nothing within the 50?
right, he was going to just submit a revised plan that shows the grading being outside the 50.
Yep.
So-
That's right, it was. Absent.
Seems like yesterday.
Seems like yesterday. Seems like
Was
yesterday.
it the last meeting? I don't.
Pretty soon it will
In
be.
another 59 minutes, it will be.
All right,
Tony,
you
if he
wise
pulls
guys.
that one corner that's at the 50, holds that grade at the 146, he has to be chasing it downstream, downhill.
It's, I think he's going to have,
Or he's gonna have to cut it in on the uphill side too.
right, but that's outside the 50 if he's going uphill.
He has to hold that one corner
Right.
in order to make that work.
Yep.
So yeah, he has to show topography.
Yeah, no, it can be done, I just don't, I just think that if you handed that plan to a contractor, he's gonna go, I'll make it work, and he'll end up in the wetlands.
Right, yeah. I know, it was a bare bones.
So where does that go?
way.
Is that a pre-construction?
Yeah, I'll submit a plan.
Yeah.
Plan?
Yeah.
And I still think maybe even the 50-foot, the staking of the corner of the apron must be surveyed prior to pour.
Because it's 51 feet deep.
I know.
Oh, look,
All right.
nobody's that precise.
Let's see, what do we do? $2,000 for, is $2,000 enough?
Don't ask me, because it's never enough.
No, it's never.
Just a pool.
If you want it,
Yeah, but there's grading.
Where is it?
I'll stick with all of you guys, whatever you want.
1,000?
Are you comfortable with two?
The access is easy, the stockpiles are easy. Yeah, I think $2,000 is enough.
Okay.
He's really known for that.
Huh?
He's really known for being too nice. That's his reputation.
Joe?
I'm just kidding.
Me?
How long have I known him?
He's being sarcastic. Don't
Thank
take
you.
it wrong, I didn't mean you were really nice.
Just to you guys. Actually, I'm a lot, no one here is nice since Deb left.
We need a motion.
So moved.
As amended, yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. And are we done?
What else do you
Second
need?
Amy's motion.
What else do you
Move to
need?
adjourn.
Just signature pages.
All right, move to adjourn.
So we just got the decisions
We did it all. We just gotta sign a couple things.
tomorrow.
Well, we don't need to stay on the record here.
All right.
Can we adjourn?
So, motion to adjourn.
It's already been moved and seconded. We just have to ask.
We need a motion to adjourn.
We already did it.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Shut us off.